Okay, we are now live on Facebook and live on Zoom for our public hearing.
All right.
Yeah.
Welcome everyone to the public hearing at the Cohasset Public Schools of the Public School Committee. Can we call this to order? Like it's public hearing, like we're here to be heard, I guess.
I think you would.
We do, yeah. It is an official meeting, so I'll call this public hearing school committee meeting to order.
Yes.
And I will do a roll call. Mr. Kearney.
Present.
Ms. Lensky.
Present.
Mr. McCullen.
Present.
Mr. Dial, present. Mr. Carr is not yet here, but we do have a quorum, so we can conduct business. And we will proceed with that. We have one purpose and one purpose only at this portion of the agenda, and that is a public hearing on our fiscal year 2025 school budget. We have been discussing over the prior weeks many details about our 2025 school budget, and at the school committee meeting, which will commence at 6 p.m. tonight, we plan to continue to debate and hopefully approve a school budget that will then go to the select board for inclusion on the town warrant, or at least to be funded by the town. So with that, I will see if there's anyone who has to be heard.
We'll monitor.
Comments from the crowd?
We'll look at the.
Yeah, I don't have anything on the Q&A.
So what we'll do is just leave this open for a few minutes and then close down the hearing.
Yes.
I mean, it was.
Do you want me to go through the?
Yeah.
We have presentation.
Right. Yeah, we don't, actually, why don't we do that? Just so people can have it. So we'll go through the presentation. I'll turn it over to our Director of Finance and Operations, Ms. Susan Owen.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, we're here. We're gonna have to
We're
look
here.
at some
Let's
point.
go through this. So this is the FY 25 budget presentation. Obviously, this is our public hearing. It's April 10th, in case anyone doesn't know. The FY 25 budget priorities.
No?
Which are teaching and learning, social emotional wellness, resources, communication, engagement. So to start with the numbers, our FY 24 appropriated budget was $22,905,421. Our contractual salary obligations, or rollover costs as we call them, come out to about 1.335 million, which is a 5.82% increase. And then we have some projected retirement savings of about 180,000, which we typically build in there as we have retirements go out at the higher levels. We hire in some fresh, young new teachers. We try.
Historically, we typically hire at a slightly lower
Lower
rate
step.
than our retirees, which makes sense because they've been there a while and have earned that salary step.
Just to be clear, this isn't retirement savings in the sense of we now are saving money on our retirement obligations.
No,
This is savings that are the result of salaried teachers retiring and falling off of our payroll.
that's correct.
Falling off.
And the reason we can't straighten this is because it captures all of us. If I straighten it, I'm afraid it's not going to capture us.
Is the camera's at an angle?
Yeah, it works at home. but
Okay.
I would have loved to have straightened it because I like things straightened myself.
Yes. For those of you at home, the television that we watch is at a somewhat irritating angle,
Yes.
but
Superintendent's error, but I didn't have time to fix it.
I will suppress my OCD for the balance of the hearing.
So second slide, again, will show some of the obstacles that we're facing. So there was a decrease in our circuit breaker funding from last year to this year in the amount of 136,501 that we have to obviously make up for this year. We had an increase in our special education tuitions in the amount of $464,425. And we've talked about, and a lot of the other districts are doing this because of the extreme 14% rate to private tuitions. What's happening is it's putting the special education count into deficit. So we're using Q1 circuit breaker of FY25, which typically we would carry that in its entirety into FY26. And that first payment is approximately $258,000. So the overall increase to us special education is $342,399.
And just to be clear, that's what we are requesting as the increase for our special education line items.
And that circuit breaker number, remember, you can use money from the current year, or you can use it from the previous year.
So we're using all of FY '24 and '25, and then this represents quarter one of the '25
Yes.
receipt.
And good budgeting is often to use it in the future year, but to hold off, but you can't do it.
My cohorts are all pretty much doing the same thing.
Yep.
They're either using one payment or two. And then we have some reductions. We had 4 ESP positions that were unfilled at this time and have been unfilled for the entire year. The special education director, our student services director, feels that we need to fill 2 of them, are a necessity. The other 2, we have been living without, and we can continue to do without, at least at this point in time. So there's a savings of about $50,000 there. The next line item is additional funding from SPED Reserve Relief Fund. The amount is unknown at this time. DESI is releasing it. And sometime in May, we'll be receiving that payment. We don't know what that payment looks like. It's to help offset districts who suffered a big hit from that 14% increase in special ed private tuitions. So that number, we don't know. That's an unknown number right now. We work together as a group, department heads, and leadership team, to try to be really lenient on what we ask for supplies materials. We actually had a savings of about $19,887. So the total reductions to the budget at this point is $74,887. More to come with that SPED reserve relief. Hopefully it comes in the next few weeks. And the SPED reserve relief, just so everyone knows, we can either use it this year, which we're not planning on it, or we can use it next year. The extraordinary relief that we're receiving this year has to be used this year. So overall budget request, when we put it all together, you have our rollover requests at the 1.155. We have the increase to the special education. We have our reductions that you've seen. So our total ask right now for FY '25 budget is a 1.422765% increase over our FY '24 budget. Oop. I'll get to the bottom. One more. Oh, I can't see the bottom, but it's up there.
Yep.
So our total request for FY '25 would be $24,328,186. So it's about a 6.21% increase, which is higher than most years. But just as you can see, our roll of costs were at 5%.
And we knew that because of our contractual obligations.
We did. This is our 3rd year of almost all of our unions in our contracts. And the 3rd year was the 3% increase, which was the highest of the 3 years.
That's right.
When we went through negotiations, the town manager did attend and say that new revenue would be higher in the 3rd year. So,
But it has tightened things up in our budget.
and we've had multiple meetings with them, with the town hall and the town manager to figure out ways on how to fund this budget, which Chris Senior, the town manager, has assured us that it's doable. We can definitely make this number. So
Yeah.
I'll turn it over to you.
I'll just speak to it a little bit and I'll let Dr. Scoggins to kind of side in. Every year we do several times during the year as a leadership team. It's an exercise we do where we look at data, both quantitative and qualitative, and look at needs in the district, and we project 3 years out, looking for positions. And there are many positions that are on our list that some moves we tried to make that we just weren't able to do in this budget climate. And we understood that, and it doesn't mean that, we're going to be in a poor position. It's just we're always projecting forward to ensure growth of our district. So you can see some of them, an increase in our occupational therapist, that may be a special education need.
Right, and it was to support the middle school and the high school
Mhm.
the person's appointing right now.
I'll let you walk through those quickly.
Sure, yeah. And so just to be able to support our students at the middle high school, if you go to the next line, it's the addition of an adjustment counselor at the elementary. We've certainly seen an escalation in behavior since COVID. And so our thought was that if we could have a full-time adjustment counselor for each building, in addition to that, that would be supportive to the students and the teachers in helping students with self-regulation and some of those things. But we pulled that out. And then we have the utilities for the budget, and then also the custodial supplies, always looking to increase those because we need supplies and the costs are going up all the time. I'm answering for you, Sue, but
That's okay. And we've had the added responsibility of the landscaping of the grounds.
Mhm.
so, and then we currently have a 0.5 teacher for our multi-language learners. So you have the ELL teacher. We wanted to increase that to a 1.0 at the district level. We have 1.5, but right now that works. However, if you will pay attention to the news or read the newspaper, you see that everywhere there's an increase.
So it's something,
Families moving
that
in, so-
particular is something to keep in mind.
We have to watch that because we are required,
Yeah.
if more students move in that are in need of support. We looked at adding a grade 4 teacher to align with the other grades. But when we did do a quick, a review of the number of students in the enrollment, it was possible to keep it where we are right now. But we're always conscious of making sure that our grades at the lower levels aren't getting too high because we want to make sure that our students are getting what they need. And then adding an IT technician district-wide, and I can speak to that.
Well, that's just, we don't have to go really
Right.
too in-depth with these, but that was a request from technology.
Technology.
For that, okay. And then the technology teachers, if you see that, currently at our elementary schools, we have ESPs that are teaching technology. We really want those roles to become actual teachers. certified
We have
teachers.
wonderful people,
They're amazing
but we need certified individuals in those
to do that.
positions.
So we took those off, although we do still strongly believe that we need to do that.
I'm sorry,
Sure.
Dr. Scollins, when we have these requests made but not able to fund, and we have a cut technology ESP, does that mean we are not cutting the $40,000 there? Because I know that's a negative.
Right, we're not.
So
They're gonna be there, but if we move it to a technology teacher, that position's set on.
So it would have been a $26,000 roughly add because you cut the ESP position and you replace it with the full-time position.
Okay, oh, and I see, okay, so I see that we've got two cuts, got it, so it's
Right, and
26,000.
two ads.
I just saw the two ESP cuts.
Good
I was like,
question.
well, that's actually $14,000 savings, but
Yeah,
it's not.
no.
Yep.
And then looking at a special education kindergarten teacher, right now, we don't have a special education teacher per grade at the Osgood, so we'd like to increase that. And then the same for the library media specialist at Deer Hill. That person right now, again, an amazing person, and a wonderful educator for the students, but she's an ESP also. So we really want to make that library online with everyone else. So that would be a library media specialist. So it'll be the same as the technology. We would be cutting the ESP position, but then hiring a certified media specialist. So those are the things that we wanted to do this year, but we feel that we could do that.
Thank you.
The next slide is just our typical budget worksheet that shows everything in just a spreadsheet form that we just went over in slides. So it goes right from the rollover all the way down to the bottom, which is the ask.
And those are in red, those in red are the positions we just went over that we're not going to ask for, but we, in a better budget situation would have. And you'll notice there are two in dark. Those are actually were our top priorities. The OT increase and then the adjustment counselor. So we're still not asking for them, but we want to distinguish those from the others.
And then there's just a slide showing what our future budget goals are.
We don't have to go over all these, but you can see that we do have future budget goals.
Yep.
And we've discussed this.
I can't even see them. You just look.
Well, I can read them if you'd like.
Yeah.
All right. So the first is to continue to expand, and this is not prioritized necessarily, it's just, they're all important. Continue to expand and support social emotional learning.
It is in your packet.
Yeah,
Just-
I'll go quickly though.
Yeah,
It's
you don't
because
mind.
it's, you know what, someone's at home not reading these
yeah,
either, so.
yeah.
It's a good point. Continue to expand the therapeutic offerings, really looking at our MTSS tiered supports to make sure we have staffing for that. Expand technology integration throughout the district. Explore the implementation of elementary foreign language, something we absolutely want to move towards. Build a computer science pathway for students that articulates from 12th grade all the way down. Continue to focus on the safety and security of our buildings. We've been doing that, but we need to continue it. Upgrade facilities, continue focus on culturally responsive teaching, diversity, equity, and inclusive practices and resources. Continue to expand the arts and music offerings, K to 12. Explore needed adjustments that are determined through curriculum review process and cycle, which we have we have a good cycle now, but with that cycle comes requests and needs. Explore the hiring of elementary assistant principals, possibly. Continue to expand English language arts and math resources K to 12. Explore the hiring of science specialists at the elementary level. Expand vocational innovation offerings for students. Expand project-based learning options for students. Continue to expand health, physical education, and wellness offerings and facilities. And if Sue clicks on that, just so you can see, go to.
Awesome.
Wait a minute, I have to stop.
Well, don't worry about it.
It's on my screen.
That's okay. Don't worry. So uh-oh.
Dr. Sullivan, will that be on the website?
This is all public, so we can put this up. We'll put this up as we'll put it on the website.
Yeah, just because if somebody brings it up, we can
Mhm.
say that, it's part of the future goals, and if they want to advocate for it. feel free.
Absolutely. And this is our current 3-year projection out work, which we'll look at again in the summer. Well, I won't look at it, but I'm sure future Superintendent Shannon will. And look at it with the team, and we review that several times a year, and then eventually talk about it with the school committee in that budget workshop.
Yeah.
So you know which way we're pointed. And this can change. It's very dynamic and it's a workbook. So we're not going to go through it, but you can see we're thinking about it, and we're thinking about the placement of these positions, and we continually monitor this. So you can go back to the other one. Thank you. But just stop share and go back to your original.
Great. Is that everything was on?
No.
Okay.
Almost.
Oh. The next slide is just to give some updates of all the good things that we have been doing.
Yeah, we won't go over all these, but we wanted to make sure that folks understood that these budget positions are paying off. We're seeing a lot of growth. You could see some of our growth in MCAS. We're not nearly done, but we have absolutely made some growth coming off of COVID. Our supports in place helped reduce that gap more than most places.
Mhm.
And the positions that we've advocated for in early numeracy, early literacy, and throughout the district are paying off. You go to the next slide. Not only in our MCAS scores, but our AP school honor roll. We were very highly ranked in that. You can see,
How well we did.
yep. Go to the next one, Sue, if you don't mind. And then meeting our targets. There really wasn't the district in the state for all intents and purposes that met their targets with the fidelity as we did this particular year. Still some growth to do, still some work in special education to do, but we're making a great strides because of the budget decisions that we've been afforded. So I just want to put that out there, and you can't keep that. We have to keep that in focus, but we understand it's a tough time. That's it.
That's it.
Great.
That is the budget presentation. And if there's anyone out there that has any questions, feel free.
And as the committee members, we will be going over our budget again, we won't necessarily do the whole presentation, so we just had at the hearing, but we'll have an opportunity to discuss it. So for right now, I'll open it up to the public.
Stop share there, Sue, so you can see us.
At this point, there's nothing coming in.
Nothing. Mr. Kearney, do you have any comments?
Just more disappointed. I guess I'm just kind of disappointed in it because of the, I mean, if it's going well, why, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I get that part of it. However, these are things that we especially need to advocate, have people in here advocating for us because there are still needs of the district. And Dr. Sullivan, thank you, and thank you to your team because like we are ahead of the state because we invest in early education, and since I've been on the board, I'm proud to say that we've been doing that throughout, and I've seen it. And I bring up that some of the school committee members such as Craig and his passion to, and I've watched him do this over and over. And Craig, thank you for that. Your advocacy is proven. There it is. It's in the numbers. So I just don't I don't know what we can do to try to get some more people involved so that they can come up with some creative ideas so that we can get some of these goals that we have.
Yes.
Advocated, because there are, and we'll bring up the budget a little later when we talk about it, but as far as public hearing today, unfortunately, we shouldn't take it as a bad thing because there's no one here, so no one really is complaining. However, I'd like to see some more activity with the community.
You just got to keep your eyes on the growth needs and continue to advocate and understanding that there's a budget process and there's, town budget as well, but, we're here to advocate for the schools and the needs of the schools. We have some clear needs.
Yeah, and I also think we're all, Sue, you did a great job as well. I just want to say that, I am just blessed, we are blessed to do the numbers on the numbers that we do. So there's other communities going through the really hard times right now. So I'm pleased to say and
Yes.
see what we're doing.
We're thankful for that too.
Thank you for this.
I guess, Mr. Kearney, I'll take the glasses half full thing and say
Yeah.
that the silence from the public is an endorsement of the work of the committee. They feel adequately represented by the work of these august individuals. So I move to adjourn the public hearing. You can't, you haven't recognized. I did my research. So with that, and seeing no further comment, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the public hearing. Motion to adjourn the public hearing. Motion made by Mr. McCullough. Do I have a second to motion to second the motion?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Leskey. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The public hearing on the fiscal year 2025 school budget has officially been adjourned. Thank you very much. Okay, so.
That seemed.
Ready to go.
All right.
Oh, I think this is.
Yeah, you gotta do that.
Mrs. Cerruti, I think you have to turn off your microphone.
You have to mute your laptop.
Got it? There we go.
All right.
I've never heard my voice speaking in echoes.
Did you think you were the most luckiest man?
I maybe,
man on the
maybe I just found my superpower. I wasn't sure.
So, all right, everyone, welcome one and all to the regular meeting now of the Cohasset School Committee for this Wednesday, April 10th, 2024, here in the Learning Commons of the Cohasset Middle and High School. Hereby call this meeting to order and open up with a roll call. Mr. Kearney.
Present.
Mr. Carr.
Present.
Ms. Leskey. Mr. McClellan.
Present.
And Mr. Dial, present. We have a unanimous attendance of the school committee. We will get this meeting going with a pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So we have a impact agenda item. We did just conclude our public hearing on the fiscal year 2025 school budget with limited to no comments from the public. So we'll take that as a vote of confidence. We have a lot of things on our agenda. I'll get right to them. One of them will be later on to hopefully vote on and approve both a budget and a capital budget for fiscal year 2025. So that's coming. But before we get into any of that, I will open the floor to public comment. As a reminder, this agenda item is to allow for anyone to make a statement or a question in public forum that is not about an agenda item on the agenda. You can let us know that you have something to say about something on the agenda, but please reserve the comment for the agenda item. And with that, I'll see if there's any public comments. Give it a moment. I'll unilaterally say that that's sufficient time for public comment. And we will then go to invited guests. Our first invited guest is the representative from the Superintendent Student Advisory Council Liaison, Ms. Grace Shaughnessy.
Hi.
Shaughnessy, floor is
So-
yours.
I'd like to talk about sports first, because everyone's been excited since the spring sports just started. And actually, boys lacrosse just had a win versus Hull. Their game was at 4:30 today, so that was pretty recent. Our girls lacrosse also beat Hull. That was Saturday. Or no, that was April 8th, and they also beat Needham on Saturday. So they've been doing well. Girls tennis, varsity and JV have won a lot since the start. Track, unfortunately, had a loss yesterday, but hopefully it'll win soon. Girls golf, 6-0 versus Situate. So that was very exciting. Everyone's been just so happy the spring sports have started too. It really tells you that summer's coming too. So spring is usually the best time for sports, I think, anyway.
Little bit of rain.
A little bit, yeah. A little bit.
We'll get through that.
Yeah. Practice, I mean, the eclipse kind of affected practices too.
It did?
Yeah. Because I think there's a rule, the MIA,
There
you
was.
can't practice during it.
Yes.
Something.
Yeah, it was that 2 o'clock to 4:30 window.
Yeah. We got to see that at school too. We all went on the field and got classes, if we're fortunate enough. That was pretty exciting. I think the last one was 2017, so it's been a while. But I'm glad that we had that experience, especially as a school, because we all got together at one time and went out on the field. So that was nice. The Euro trip, I think people going on it are leaving tonight, actually. So everyone's been excited for that, who's going. The Panama trip to the service project, that's been like a big motivation. I know a lot of people are going for that too, a lot of my friends, which is exciting. And obviously spring break, so it's been a little
Always
hectic
exciting.
this week because we're kind of cramming for our APs, so we're trying to finish everything before April break, which is tough, but I'd rather finish everything now and then review when you get back. So this week's kind of a little crazy, but we're gonna get through it.
Wonderful. Great, thank you, Grace.
But that's all I had to add, really.
Great, thank you very much. I'll open the floor to committee. Any questions, comments for Grace? Mr. Gannon?
Great job.
Thank you.
It's not easy to be talking in front of people. This is great way, a good student perspective.
Thank you.
Ms. Carr?
Thanks for being here. Appreciate you here. And everybody was smiling behind you. Nice job.
And we do have some pictures later of people looking up at the sun with the glasses.
Oh, jeez.
I didn't catch you, I don't
No. It's probably a good thing.
Ms. Leskey?
Just thank you, Grace. And I could tell that this was a really authentic report because it just, you could see the smile in your own face as you were talking about some of these new events and I'm glad that one's outside playing and sports
Yeah.
and sort of feeling out of those winter doldrums. So
Ms. McCall?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Grace. Community's right, thank you a lot for your help out there. And thank you for your service on Dr. Sullivan's Superintendent Student Advisory Council or Committee Council.
Council.
I hope you've enjoyed that experience so far.
Wow.
What year are you, Grace?
I'm a junior.
You're a junior, so you're a rising senior.
Yep.
You got a busy year next year. So you've been in the high school for a while. I always ask our student reps if there's anything that you've noticed around school that you've heard that you know, yourself or your peers don't like about school or any sort of problems, anything like that, that you'd like to bring to our attention. This is your chance, because we're most interested in hearing from our student liaisons. It's very important input for us to try and do a better job.
Well, I kind of have a positive outlook because I know a lot of people used to complain about school lunch, but it's gotten so much better, like significantly. I can't even believe how much better it's gotten. But so that people used to complain about, but I mean, I haven't really heard many complaints.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
That's good to hear. We did put a little bit of effort into the school lunch program, so it's nice to hear
Yeah.
positive feedback.
It's
So,
definitely working a lot better now. So
that's great. Well, thank you so much, Grace.
Yeah.
Thanks again for being here.
And I'll thank you as well. Again, these reports are really important to us as a committee to get a real perspective as to what's going on, and allowed that for us. Always happy to hear the good things, but also the things where we can work on. So, but thank you very much for coming, and I appreciate the report. Nice job.
thank you.
Good. Have a great break.
All right, so now we're gonna go to, I think, one of my favorite parts of the whole school committee process, and that's our spotlight on learning. And today we have a special presentation from Ms. Perrell. Dr. Sullivan, do you want to do the introductions?
Well, I will actually turn it over to Principal Sullivan to do the introductions, but I want to welcome the students and Mrs. Perrell. It's
Yes,
always
welcome,
great to
everyone.
have you here. I'm excited to see some of the clubs and things that are happening.
Where's the camera?
Mrs. Perrell, do you want to come over here? I would
You
move
wanna do your
right over there.
triangle, what should we just tell me
This
the
is where you
camera?
want.
Yeah. This
She's never
is the
shy
camera.
From a camera.
So yeah, so if they want to be, there we go. But she's found the camera.
Yeah, she's a very professional.
And just a couple, we talked about, you saw Grace talked about AP, and just one nice thing that's happening at Deer Hill. We've had some students who are pledging support to some of our older students taking tests. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure, I'm happy to
I
talk
think it's such a
about that.
nice touch.
It's really fun. It started last year. I want to give credit to Mr. Sears, who reached out last year with his AP Physics class. And he asked if we would write letters of encouragement. So I just put it out as an open invitation last year. And then I went and got to deliver the letters to the class with some candy. And then after their test, they came and visited the letter writers. And so this year it's grown. Senora Nelson is also participating. So we have AP Chem, Mr. Sears is teaching this year, and then AP Spanish. And so we've divided Deer Hill in half. Around May 4th is always a community service day for us. We dress up for Star Wars and do May the 4th be with you. And so this is our community service focus this year. So the whole school will be writing letters to these two classes divided in half. And then the students will actually come that day, May 3rd, to our school, meet the letter writers. I know Senora Nelson has a little presentation from the Spanish class, and just have an opportunity to make a connection with those students. Just today, one of our other fourth grade teachers, Taylor Benoit, shared a slide deck with the school that's also like an instructional tool for writing these letters. And so it's not just, when you're done with your work, scratch out a letter. Like, we really think about it purposefully and integrate it in our curriculum and our letter writing and our writing skills and figurative language and all that good stuff. So we are underway and excited to have our AP students visit us on May 3rd.
Wonderful, and that, just state the obvious, the reciprocity and the fact that you have students who will one day be AP students.
Right.
And this stays with the tradition. It's just a nice back and forth, so kudos to Principal Sullivan and Principal Scott, and their whole team on doing that, so great work. And I'll let you do the introductions.
So we are here tonight to present on our BASE program, and that is our before and after school enrichment program. It is completely staff generated and driven. Erica Perrell is our fearless leader. She's our coordinator, and she definitely brings her organizational skills and her enthusiasm to the program. So the way it works is we have 3 6-week sessions throughout the year. Teachers, ESPs, any staff member can volunteer to teach a class, and it's really just based on their passions and interests. So every session is different. It's, we've had everything from our hat knitting that we then donate to Rosie's Place, to cartooning, to lots of STEAM type activities. This year, this session, we're gonna have Spanish, chess, we've had Zumba. And Mrs. Pearl's gonna talk to you about some specific courses, but it's, has a high, and I know you have a presentation, so I'm not gonna give away, I'm not gonna steal any more thunder.
And Ms. Pearl, when you'd like me to put the presentation up, I will- I will
We're
do it.
ready.
You got it.
Thank you. So like Mrs. Principal Sullivan said, sorry. Great. This is the Deer Hill Base program. So the B stands for before, after school enrichment programs. This is my first year. The way it works, you can just do.
That's fine, yeah.
Yeah, it's totally fine. It's a 45-minute class. It runs for 6 weeks. It's $60 per course by the student. There's 3 sessions a year, fall, winter, and spring, and it is staffed by Deer Hill educators. And just kind of the rollout of it is that I poll the staff. I ask them what classes or courses they want to design. Then I distribute flyers to students, the families enroll, we work with my school bucks, and that's how the payments are made, and then the classes run for 6 weeks. And that just gives you a little bit of data. We had 11 programs, 13 programs, 12 programs, over 100 students each time. I think that spring number has grown a little bit, but and then our classroom teachers, specialists, and ESPs are all involved in teaching the courses.
That's so nice to see, and I know that's been a focus of the committee to make sure we have really rich enrichment programs, and it's just wonderful to see those numbers.
Yeah. So what I do is I try to make sure that the classes connect to at least one multiple intelligence, if not more. So that just gives you a snapshot. Those are obviously not all the courses, but like Principal Sullivan said, the kinesthetic, like knitting, and we have a boot camp starting. We have an actor studio, readers theater, Spanish for our linguistics. And then visual spatial, we had Micah Masari teach an interior design. We have a chess club. We have playmakers. Cassie O'Brien's going to be doing Google Draw. So we have a lot of different options for all our students. Now comes the part where you guys get to get up, because I have some special guests. I have from the STEAM team, little ladies, Molly and Eve. Give a wave.
You want to come, why don't you come right around here so
Okay,
they can
come
see
here
you on
quick. Yeah,
camera?
we get our camera time.
Yeah.
I have Jacqueline and Libby Monahan. Come on over.
Good.
They're from the Taylor Swift pop star or poet class, if you couldn't guess. There we are. And then from Club 24, I have Caitlin, and I have Evan. You want to come over? And so what we're going to do is we're going to give you. There we go.
Hold on, I'll move you. Oh, no, hold on.
Oh, geez. There we go.
I guessed wrong.
Oh, there we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to count off, and I'm going to give you a base program, and they're going to run it for you. So you get one activity. If you're not a Swiftie, I think you will be by the end, right?
Nice.
Okay. So I'm going to give you a number, 1 through 3. Put it on your finger. You're 1, you're 2, you're 3, you're 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. One's raise your hand. Go over to Taylor Swift. Yes.
Can we keep it on camera here? Is
Yeah,
it
why don't we
possible?
move them to the
Yeah.
table?
Okay,
Move over
Taylor
there.
Swift, when you come over
So
here, bring
you
all
get
your
stuff.
materials. Bring your materials. Twos, where are you? Bring your materials over here to 24 Club. All right, will you go get those? And then 3s, which is the easiest place, because we have a
Mr.
lot.
Carr, can you clear your table so they can use yours?
We got a lot of materials, Mr. Carr.
Where were the 2s, Miss Pearl?
Oh.
I did.
Thank you.
Alice, get them in the SP.
Okay.
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 Number this.
All right, this is all 3. Okay.
Eve and Molly, want to bring some of the material over here?
I have seen the picture.
I was.
Good job. I know. I'll carry the water, okay? Okay.
One, two, Mr. Kearney?
I'm a one.
No,
We got a seat right over there.
All right, geez, it's nice to meet you.
Okay.
All right, we need to play for the water. Okay.
Thank you.
We need the rest of the containers over there.
Yeah.
Good, okay.
So the idea is to get the number 24 about any of those meetings.
All right, this is. You get 1 5 or what? So excited about
Good.
Okay.
Okay. Should we give it a shot? Scrap paper.
Thank you.
So 24. So you said addition, multiplication, division.
Okay, we'll try.
Thank you.
So tell me again, we tap the card? Okay.
Right, what do I do when I tap it?
You can use all the numbers.
Oh, yeah, you got On one card?
We go first for the division.
Three different equations.
Oh,
And then together.
so now what?
Oh, so you could do like,
Evan knows better than I
You have to do it 3 steps?
Okay. We'll say
You can start.
We'll say three.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, you saw that, yeah, I saw that one for them.
Sure. Here's what happened for me. So we had a competition like this with all of the principals and Dr. Sullivan, myself. and Sarah. Oh, yeah.
that's, okay. Something to do with,
No, no, they were first.
Good, all right, we'll get this one.
Because usually
So this is, 3 steps.
Everything has to be 24.
Maybe 20.
Okay.
So, like,
Keeps it in.
It's
Okay, so that means, okay.
Yeah.
never see a plastic bag.
I'm gonna do a similar one. Loves a fragile little flame. That one is a metaphor.
And we put rocks on it. And my mom and me had an idea, since plastic bags can go up in the air, they fill it with water. So I brought plastic bags. You could make a base of what the base has to
see that.
So this is every time I look at
Pretty light, right?
Minus 5 is,
And then your golf ball.
I'm wondering, I'm gonna change it to one.
I
wonder who's Jay.
And then.
boy, this is already, it's very hard. We do this. Did you guys get this one?
Oh, I got it. I got
There
it.
you go.
5 times 4 is 20.
I wonder that. It's gonna
Plus
go.
8 is 28.
Minus 4 is
So I take.
How'd you get it?
Don't cover that.
Very good.
That's why I made this part, so.
Oh, so I get.
Let's do some.
My one What's the secret? What, something happens when everybody turns out to work.
The chair, is the chair, is this,
So we slipped it in.
424.
like a romantic trend?
I had to-
Let's go.
That's your turn. All right, Ted, you're up.
When you can- come on.
2 points. This is only 1 point?
So this is how many steps?
It's 1 point. I get it. Oh, my God. Okay. And are you gonna, so this is 2 dots, so this one's harder. You just have to feel.
Like, if you-
9 times 8 is 17. Plus 8.
Jamie, touch your nose. If you can hear me, clap 1, 2, 3. So much. Here's what we're going to do. Originally, we would love for you to see every activity, but you guys have a big meeting ahead of you. So, and we're just gonna do the one rotation. So what we would like to know is from each group, from one of the grown-ups, something that you learned, enjoyed, or thought differently about after this activity. You can do it popcorn style, whoever wants to do it, talk first. I love your quiet.
I have learned I'm still not very good at math.
Yeah. Evan, what are we gonna tell them? The power of what? Yeah. Please say that again with yeah.
Yet.
Yeah. Yes.
I've learned that there's more than one way to approach a challenge or a problem.
Taylor Swift, poet.
Love it. So we meet Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday mornings. There's always some kind of club going on at Deer Hill. So feel free to stop by.
Mrs. Crowe, didn't one of our students want to speak about STEM?
Yes.
I knew.
Steve, do you want to talk a little bit about being in the STEM program and you had something prepared? Go ahead.
Well, I also want to quickly talk about my technology. So that was my second program I did. And I want to speak about, I was the only girl doing it. But even though I was the only girl, I still had fun. And even when you're like the only person, say the only boy, that doesn't mean you can't have fun.
We had some boys in the Taylor Swift Club. It was really, we found lots of connections in our classes.
Yeah.
Good job. We all set? Can we, set.
I was just saying, I was struggling with this, but I decided to shake it off.
No. Only in your wildest dreams, Pat.
We're gonna take a minute to clean up.
Awesome, thank you very much. Good job. Yeah. Thank you, students, thank you, Mrs. Rowe. I love your t-shirt. Thank you. You guys are really, really good. This is so. Thank you. This is fantastic.
I think with the center, that's all. So it's like just make one side.
Well, I was having trouble too.
Well, when I volunteered for table, I didn't realize it was so fast, but, so that very adventurous.
Thanks, Sam.
Sure, no trouble.
This one is mushed.
No, I thought you did a great job. Don't even. Okay.
And
See if there's some towels somewhere. You found some?
If not, I have a jacket.
Okay, I'll find a towel.
Thank you guys. That was so.
He's here, we'll get him back to you. Awesome.
That was amazing.
That was great. Thank you, Ms. Crowe.
Great job, everyone.
Thank you, parents.
Yes, thank you, parents, thank you, students.
Don't
thank you
feel obligated to stay.
But if you do stay, we are talking about budget.
Thank you, Correll.
Thank you.
That's cool, right. I'll wait till we are maybe back in play.
Kidding, I'm terrible. I'm looking at this.
I just took a little while to get warmed up. It's time to warm up.
Yeah.
I will make the notice, which I learned to do in our Taylor Swift.
Very cool.
That's a great example of experiential learning for our committee.
Absolutely.
You guys actually experienced the base program, which was wonderful. Any questions, comments from the committee? I'll just open the floor. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is one of these examples where it shows just how, the dedication our staff has to our students and how effective our students are. So thank you to Ms. Perrell and Principal Sullivan, all the way up and down.
Shows you can, learning can come in a lot of different packages and, those enrichment clubs, there's a lot of learning happening.
Yes. So, our next thing on our agenda item is, we're welcoming Miss Kathy Cerruti to talk to us about, the middle high school library collection refurbishment project, which is appropriate because we are in the middle high school library, so.
And,
Should I share my screen?
you can share your screen, of course, and I just want to publicly thank Ms. Rudy for all the work she does in this room and you've many times seen the wonderful projects our students complete surrounding us. So it's lovely to have her here. See that.
And it was, Mr. McCullough who left the window open. It was Mr. McCullough who left the window open.
Oh, we'll talk later.
We're close, we're gonna get it.
So I'm feeling inadequate. I have no Taylor Swift quotes or anything.
Well, apparently Mr. Dial can add them throughout the presentation.
I did learn a lot in the staging area about Taylor Swift.
There we go.
Okay. So yes, it's a mouthful. I'm Kathy Cerruti. I'm the school librarian at Cohasset Middle and Cohasset High School. I'll say it like that now. And I also am the 8th grade research teacher, as many of you know. And I am here to talk about this very exciting project, the CMHS Library Collection Refurbishment Project, with a focus on the nonfiction collection. So I do want to mention that this presentation was started by a consultant that we hired in the fall, Lee Altor. And you hopefully have her report, yes?
Yes.
So this is the details, and this is an overview. So, but we can refer back to this.
You all have it.
Yeah. Sure. And I want to begin actually with some research, because I'm a research teacher. But it's some exciting headlines that came out recently, and I think it really shows the importance of a vibrant, useful, up-to-date print collection. So first headline that came out recently, back in January. Let me see if I can actually the links work. A groundbreaking study shows kids learn better on paper, not screens. Let's see, will it actually show? It won't. Might not show. Because I didn't share properly, maybe, let's see.
No, I think it tells you to do something, click,
Yeah, control.
click maybe.
Okay. Well, you know what, I won't, you'll have to believe me.
We believe.
So groundbreaking study, it was done by the US Department of Education and I'll take a look at the study myself because there's some interesting stuff in here. They found out that for deeper reading among children aged 10 to 12, paper trumps screens. And that was an interest. Oh, now it's working maybe. So. Hold on. Let's try that again. Not sure if I did that. Okay. So that's one study. Next study was back in December. Reading print improves comprehension far more than looking at digital text, says researchers. Now, I'm showing you these studies. I'm the 8th grade research teacher. I spend the majority of my time teaching kids how to navigate online and find credible sources. And I am a believer in these studies for sure that print improves comprehension more than looking at digital text. And the kids learn better on paper, not screens. Another study that's not recent, but I wanted to throw it up there, was the fact that students score higher on MCAT tests when there is a higher per pupil library book count. All like really foundational studies that kind of scaffold what I'm going to show you next, that this project and what it's based on. So, and points to the importance of our print collection. So we hired a consultant in the fall from Follett. You might know Follett from Aspen, and they also run our Destiny Library catalog as well, district-wide software. And she, experienced librarian, years of experience, works for Follett now, has done many analyses and consultation with schools. And she analyzed our collection and looked at what we have to do with it, like what its state was and where we should go with it. The first thing that we started with was the recommended number of books per student. And I'm just going to show you some statistics. So Massachusetts actually doesn't have any guidance on a recommended number of books per students. The American Library Association does. They recommend 15 to 20 books in the school library per secondary student. Our consultant was from the South, from Texas. So you're going to see she brought in a lot of southern states, I know, for comparison. Just for comparison's sake, California recommends 20 books per student. South Carolina recommends 15 to 20 books per student. Middle Texas recommends 12 to 16 books per student. And I want to show you where we're at. Our CMHS library currently has 10 books per student. After we weed, what you hope you will approve later on, after we weed what our consultant recommended that we weed, and before we do any major purchasing. So that's where we're at right now. Even more interesting statistic that I want to focus on is the age of our collection. So regarding recommended ages for age for collections, Massachusetts again does not have guidance on a specific collection age recommendation. Either does the American Library Association, but other states do. California recommends that 67% of the school library collection be less than 15 years old. South Carolina recommends that the collection be less than 13 years old. Texas recommends the collection be less than 10 to 14 years old. I'm going to show you the age of our collection. The average age of our library collection is 33 years old, and specifically the nonfiction collection, the average age is 35 years old. I feel like I could probably just drop the mic at this point and call it a day, but I think that's a really important piece of data right there. I do want to dig in a little bit to the age recommendation because there are some details that she gave us in that report that are really interesting.
Mr. Very quickly on those ages and title counts. Is that I'm jumping ahead. Apologies.
Yeah, feel free.
I see we have a lot of we've got like 150 New Grove Dictionary of Music and Musician. It's not 150. We have duplicates. Does that 33 count each duplicate title multiple times towards that average age, so that or is it just one entry for each title?
I'm thinking it's one entry per each title, but these are one entry for each title. Yeah, I think so. I think it is versus the copies.
Yes, so New Grove
Right,
Dictionary isn't
right.
skewing the,
Yeah, right,
okay.
exactly.
And is that the same thing for the book, the 10 to 15 books per student? Is that titles per student as opposed to actual physical copies?
Titles.
Thank you.
So let's dig in, and please definitely ask questions in this service. So just to dig into some of this age, the age statistics in this collection, specifically for our library, 86% of our collection, over 8,000 books, is over 15 years old. 3% of our collection, close to 300 books, has been published since 2018, just 3% of our collection. The average age of the books we are asking to read, I keep pointing over here because we moved them over here, is 1973. So I think it's a little overdue that this library gets a good shot in the arm and a good reading and refurbishment. I want to show a little bit more detail on collection age again, because there's something, oh, well, actually, I'll show this first. This shows you the decades where our books, the majority of our books are from. 1,000, over 1,000 are from the 60s. Next screen has more. You'll see the majority are from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. And, first I'm like, oh, 2000s. I'm forgetting, like, 2000 was like 25 years ago. Sometimes I forget that. That's a long time. So yes, that you're seeing our problem come to light here. There's also in library land something called age-sensitive categories. So categories of books that should be replaced after 5 years because their content changes quickly. So medical science, I'm just giving you a smattering there. Immigration from 1986, these are books in our collection. Education reform, 1973. So you see, like, and I have, all the details in the report, but we have them here as well. If you look at these age-sensitive categories, for example, astronomy, 100% of our astronomy section is considered aged by the formula that our consultant used. Also, I would say, what else here? Social problems and services section, 91% is considered aged. Political science, 93%. You look over all of the age-sensitive categories combined, 93% of our collection is considered aged. So the good news is that we have a plan, and that's why we hired the consultant. It was, at first I was like, shouldn't we hire this consultant? I'm glad we did. We have a plan. She gave us a lot of great guidance, and we know how to make this a lot better. Before I show you the plan, I have to thank you folks, because one of the things you did last year, you did many wonderful things last year, but one of the things you did last year was that you budgeted for a library assistant for this school, for this school library. Who's here, right here, Muncie forever. And Muncie has been like fabulous hire, completely instrumental in everything you're seeing here. She's fabulous with spreadsheets, so we have like all sorts of great data. And all the weeding, a lot of this has been Muncie's hard work, so I wanted to mention.
She's a pretty wonderful artist too. You're gonna see-
Exactly, she won the recycled parts.
You'll actually see some
Yeah,
work.
That's her, yeah, exactly.
I'll have some pictures of her work later.
So, and also I want to mention that, I've been here 10 years. It's like, well, what have you been doing for the past 10 years? Well, the important part of this is that this is based on the nonfiction collection. Our fiction collection is doing really fast. I mean, we have completely revamped it, weeded it. When I first came here, I'm solo librarian. I had to figure out, all right, what am I going to focus on? I'm teaching, and I've got to, what's the most bang for the buck? The fiction section. Our biggest readers, 6th graders, 7th graders, looking for, pleasure of reading. And they would come here and go, this is all you got? This is like some really old stuff here. So, and what did some recent 6th graders say?
So I had, so our recent purchase, basically, we bought about 277 new titles of books that were all published like between 21, 22, 23, 24, mostly, most recent ones. And we did all the old ones, we started taking them out of the shelves. And I heard the middle grader talking to another one, and she says like, I love it now. These little feels like a real library. Because they were not used, they saw the books, but they knew they were old, so they were not coming here to take the book out. It was, the books were just wallpaper.
Yeah.
So now they are starting really to, they know that we have the latest stuff. So you can see them like asking for titles, and they know that they come and they wait, or they put holds on books, and that wasn't happening before.
And our checkouts are through the roof for the fiction section. I mean, I can show I don't have the graph in here, but I could show you, it's like more than ever before. So feel good about that, but I know that our nonfiction collection, as you can see, has been pretty neglected. So the plan, so we have a lot of work to do. We can't do it all this year. So the consultant suggested a 5-year plan. I'm realizing this is a 6-year plan though. That, and this was the plan that she came up with, that the majority of the weeding does happen this year, with over 2,300 books being weeded. If you look at the details, it's 517 from the age-sensitive categories, 950 from outdated reference, 924 from books published before 1970. So the majority happens this year, with a plan for the other years, obviously, for weeding continuously, keep things up to date. And if you're feeling like, ooh, I hope you're not going to get rid of any classics, we probably are going to get rid of some classics. Can you hold those up there? Because they're extremely yellow and extremely like it might be a classic that maybe we need to repurchase because it's looking really bad and nobody wants to pick up a book that's bad. So if we do weed classics, where another example I thought of is we have lots of critical analyses of Voltaire and Kafka, which are wonderful. We need them here, but they date to 1960. There's far more modern critical analyses that we could purchase. So we're excited to do that. All right, so there's the weeding part of this, which I'm hoping you're going to approve tonight. There's also the repurchasing part, and that costs a fair amount of money because books are expensive, and the books that we like to get here are expensive. They're hardcover, they're quality books. We are not suggesting, and the consultant as well did not suggest that we read 2,300 books, we buy 2,300 books. We're not saying that. We're suggesting actually purchasing 50% of what we need. And you can look up here and see the projected costs over 6 years. It's expensive. These numbers came from, I'll move forward and maybe move back again, but these numbers came from the School Library Journal's average book prices, 2022 prices. But we highlighted we focused on hardcover, fiction, nonfiction, adult, and YA titles. So there's the costs. And Muncie, thank you again for all your spreadsheet prowess and coming up with all these numbers, and very much appreciated. So the big question is obviously who can help with funding. And that's where I'm so excited because the PSO heard this, saw the report, and said, we want to help. So the PSO, hopefully you have this as well here, has offered to fund $50,000 over the next 5 years. And we have a representative here from the PSO to support this. And that is a huge boon for this library.
And that would be in installments.
And you have this. Yeah.
So you'd actually get a gift request each installment, if I'm correct. I
Yeah.
just want, but obviously you needed to see the whole thing.
Yeah. And that's 50,000 over 5 years. And I think you might have seen that our costs over 6 years there are up to 79,000. I think that we can do this. We can fund the remainder through the district. I mean, you folks fund us a decent amount every year. I mean, that's great that we get $6,000 pretty much every year to focus on purchasing books.
And we've met operationally to discuss
Yep.
how we would do that. So
Yep.
we're very firmly behind it and thankful.
And there was talk about okay, if it's level funded, maybe even a little bump up, maybe like $1,000 or $2,000 more a year might get us like everything we need. So I think our plan is a good one. I think it's in good hands. I think our biggest stopgap right now is to get rid of those, well, I don't say get rid of, let me rephrase that. To rehome those 2,300 books, because we've invited faculty, students to come down and tag books. We didn't want them to walk away with it because you guys haven't approved it yet. But we've had a ton of people saying, oh, I'll take this, I'll take this. And we've also talked to a prison program that came and looked and asked if they could take some. We have
the title, but we do have a company that will come and bring us a crate where we can put the books, and they will take the books away.
Recycling, rehoming, and reusing. And
for free.
Yep.
It's not gonna cost the school anything.
Yeah, yeah. So last thing I just want to mention is that we do have a plan for like how we're going to replace these books. We are going to make sure we purchase books published within the past 5 years so they don't look so decrepit, and so that they're current. We are going to stagger publication dates to maintain the currency of the library collection. We're going to replace only what's necessary. Again, I'm not saying that we're going to get rid of 2,300 books, we should purchase that many. We're going to purchase what we need. We're thinking maybe 50% of what we need. We've already started surveying teachers, asking them, hey, if this comes to pass, what would you like to see? What areas would you like us to build up? We've got a great response. And the exciting part is right there. Part of the survey asked them this question, and 90% of the faculty, 90% said they would require use of more print sources for their projects if this collection was brought up to date. And that's huge. So we're excited about that as well. Lastly, we're taking their input. We're asking. We're always keeping wish lists from students and teachers, but we also have access to Follett's what they call their free curation service. So they can advise us as well on, you want books on, microbiology, why don't you look at these titles? And they can suggest books that are aligned with the Mass Curriculum Framework. So that's all. So that is my pitch. We have lots of, for those people that love numbers, we have lots of supporting worksheets, thanks to Muncie. We have a snapshot of a wish list from our teachers. We have our general live wish list that we keep up to date, that we order from. We have a log, an Excel sheet of all those books over there, all the ones that we're reading. We have the estimated replacement book costs. So, yeah. And we have an avatar that Adam Sasso made of me in Hogwarts Library. He's really having fun with AI recently. So there I am in Hogwarts looking at my new collection. Yeah. So I thought it was great. So questions? It's a lot went into this.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. It's clear this is a true labor of love, and you've got the best interests of the district and our students at heart. So before we move too far, I'll just open it up to committee for any questions or comments. Mr. Kearing, I'll start with you as we want to do.
I'm reminded of how we are so lucky to have folks like you in our district. I had the pleasure of meeting you and going through all this when we did a tour through the facility. I can't agree with you more. I love the study which you pointed out. I always saw my kids, they always had books in their hands. And I should have had stocks and bonds in the books. Spent so much money there. And it's really paid off. And then they went to screen time, and it's still not, they still read, they're doing their homework, I understand that, but to keep a book in a kid's hand is nothing better.
I think the exciting part that I've seen consistently over the years is that, so we have an ebook catalog. I love it. Sora, it's great. We use it a lot. But if sometimes, we've seen this many times where a kid will come into the library and say, we have such and such, and in the past, we didn't have it. We'd say, well, we have the ebook. And they'd say, really? I want the print book. You don't have the print book? Our readers want like something in their hands. It's great. The power of print.
I'm 100%.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Keating. Mr. Carr.
This is excellent, thank you. Curious, if we do nothing, and we have all these books, how many books per student do we currently have?
I had that number. Hold on. 13.
13 books.
Yeah. 13, and you're thinking, well, 10, it's 10 before, 10 is after, wait, 10 is after just reading this, not the 6 years of reading. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how do we buy books through Follow?
We used to exclusively buy the books through Follett.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, once I'm telling you, you're worth your weight in gold. Mainly because I didn't have time to do a lot of processing, labeling, slapping labels on ourselves, coming up with barcodes. So we were kind of married to Follett because they did all the processing for us. And they actually did it badly because they used to slap the barcode right on the summary in the back and you can't read it. So so now we have so much flexibility once a year because we could buy from anyone and we can label our own books.
Yeah, we have leftover codes, barcodes that we can use. And we can just label the books like that. Sometimes the difference between, let's say, Amazon and Follett doesn't vary that much. For certain books where they're like, I've seen like, I've been talking to teachers because the idea is not just getting any books because we're just getting rid of them, right? So the idea is a little bit like what we're doing with the fiction for middle school, when the kids to come and actually use the book. So the idea is to do the same with the nonfiction. So I've been talking to each of the teachers to see what are they teaching in their class, what are the books that will support their classes. Some of the books are going to be a little bit more expensive, but I think it's fine. And then for those, we can look at different outlets and buy them from whatever we think that's better. And then if the idea is for the most expensive ones, probably start buying one copy of that book, see if they are really being used, and then if that's needed, then we can buy more.
Yeah.
And maybe certain areas we're going to have less books on certain topics, but it's because maybe there's no need in the library to use it. So I want to start seeing the high schoolers that are the ones that probably are going to use the most of nonfiction to start using the library, like not a place where the books like the minister says wallpaper. Nobody is really browsing because they know that they are old. So they're not even like thinking that the library is a resource for them. So the idea is to buy all those new books, but keeping in mind that we want the students to use them.
And it will take a mind shift, I think. I mean, the faculty they're behind. They're like, okay, if you do it, we'll start using it more. But right now, like, I'm not going to send my kids down there if, they're going to look at some ancient text that, if I tell them that they're in their research, their sources shouldn't go beyond 10 years old and you've got a 20-year-old book on DNA, that's so, but they're willing, we have to prove it and we have been proving it. Like, I think we've seen with our fiction section, the literacy teachers, like everyone's like,
Yeah.
oh, wow, you
Fiction
get really good stuff down there now. They're sending their kids here.
The 2,900 books you want to get rid of, will they be, is it 2,900 new books that you buy over 6 years? Or is that just the first
It is,
tranche?
we are, let's see, this is the weeding plan, right? So 2,300, we're getting, over 2,300, we're getting rid of this year.
Okay,
And that there's the kind of the like next year's focus is on 1970s, 538 there. So that's the weeding plan. We are not suggesting that we replace all 2,300 books. We're actually recommending only replacing 50% of what we read.
so we're getting rid of books, but we're only buying back 50%
Yeah,
of what we
we
need.
want to be much more targeted. We want to be much more targeted. We want to find out what the teachers want, what the curriculum, that we're supporting. Initially, we don't want to just be like, woohoo, let's just buy a ton of books because, we can. I mean, we want people to use them. So we're trying to be a little bit more targeted and then find out exactly what we need.
And just so I can follow along, is it, when we say number of books, are we talking about titles and the actual number of physical books will be greater than that? Because we'll buy duplicates of
No,
some of
that-
them?
If I can answer that,
Yeah.
I think that 29 would be just actual books. If we have more than one, then would be 2 books will be out of those 29. So it's not titles, it's actual.
Yeah.
Yes.
And truthfully, I think when you're talking about copies of the same title, that's probably more on the fiction side. I mean,
It is, we're gonna have probably in some I can see nonfiction being more than one book in some classes like AP English or English in general, when we are gonna have, all the kids working in certain project. Then we may need more than one specific book if that's a good resource for them.
I have a general question about procurement. On something, a number this high, how what procurement rules do we have in place for competition or bidding? Nothing.
Nothing on textbooks,
Nothing. in textbooks. Okay.
educational.
Okay.
Me purchasing that amount of
Yeah.
books.
Yeah. And then, so I happen to like Shakespeare.
Mhm.
He's old, he's no longer with us. The books are old, you have a complete collection and they're expensive. As an example, what are you gonna do about replacing Shakespeare?
So for example, for Shakespeare, we have Mr. Palmieri, let's say,
Yeah.
one of the teachers, right? So we have their curriculum on where are they working. So we know that they have Othello, that they work on Hamlet, or they work on those. We know that the kids are going to do projects that need the critical thinking.
Yeah.
So what I've talked to all the teachers, that I know which books are more needed, then we'll go and I said, I've already sent collections to them saying, here's what we have available now. It's relatively old, but that's usually what we have available. And I've also already started doing research on what are the books that are available on those topics as of now, and send them to the teachers as well. So we have them as a wish list, but also they can see the book that we intend to purchase beforehand, so that they can also give their input and see, is that exactly what you think that's going to work?
And we
And that's
might
the
keep
idea.
some of those,
Yeah.
like, you know, like that's.
So if you're on this list, they may stay.
Are they?
I don't think that there's, none of those that you are saying probably are going to be on that written list.
Yeah,
So this is not the lead.
yeah, that is.
No, it is, but the like check the, if you see something on Shakespeare, either it's gonna be probably that they are really in bad shape, that you need to buy another one.
yeah.
Or are being books that even though they were in Shakespeare, maybe they are not being used in any of the curriculums that we have in the school.
Yeah.
Also, for example, we have I have the list of all the books that are on all the reading lists from 6th grade to 12th grade.
Summary.
So we are gonna have, we pretty much have a copy of that, of every book in the library. And we are gonna keep updating and seeing what is gonna be the wish list now for next year. And we are gonna try at least to have the majority of those books in the library. So it's just very targeted to what the kids and the teachers need.
And this is our opportunity to buy, like, we know that we always get a big influx of kids looking for Othello critical analyses. We have like one, you know, Charlie Lankow gets it and then it goes away and no one else does it.
That's where we
It's
said.
like Charlie comes down really early and gets it.
I'm
So-
sure Charlie returns his book.
I know, but he's the first one. He
I'm
knows.
I'm
to
only
get-
teasing.
I know you get
There's
it
like
first,
targeted ones where we are gonna have, we
More.
have more.
so that, you know, like, because, so the kids don't come down and say, oh, Charlie, there we go.
Yeah.
They got one book that everyone needs.
So you have books that are like in the Shakespeare, but it is the text of what Shakespeare did, and it also is
Critical analysis.
critical analysis. Okay.
But a lot of our critical analyses are pretty old, like
Yeah,
we're
they're
in the
pretty old.
sixties. Like I think some modern analyses that bring up stuff that the kids know that compare it to like recent events might be.
And some of those books do have modern analysis.
Some of them, yeah,
Okay.
there's a process of then researching, and that's what I said, that there's a
Yeah.
process of researching and talking to the teachers to find those that we think are gonna serve the kids better.
Very helpful, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Celeste?
Thank you. This is, I mean, I could sit here and talk about books all day. And thank you, PSO, for this very generous gift to our school. This is amazing. But I do have a couple of questions,
Yes.
because one, like my heart like just squeezes a little bit when I think about books, not they're just going somewhere.
Yeah.
So isn't there something to be learned from older texts in terms of when you're reading something with a critical eye and understanding how thinking has changed over time and doing compare and contrast? And I'm worried that like with a overall shift of a collection towards the most recent 20 years, that, you know, with the exception of things that are clearly offensive and sort of offensively out of date, that kind of thinking is actually still important. And potentially this is a philosophical question that is not appropriate for a school meeting. I just want to.
Well,
Put that out
I
there.
hear your point, but I also, the practical side of me says, This book hasn't been checked out since 1992. You know, but I mean, I hear your point, but if we have books here that have not been checked out in 20 years, why would we keep them here? And I can't, you know, this is hard for me. Not that I'm a bit of a hoarder, but these are books. Like, you know, I'm like, oh, look at this, and even look at me with my astronomy section. I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, this is. And I'm realizing why I'm relating so much to the astronomy section. The average age is 87. Yeah, that's when I graduated from college.
Right.
You know, like I might like the Carl Sagan text. I definitely want some Carl Sagan in here, but it needs to be updated. I mean, if no one's checked this book out since 92.
I mean, I feel like there's also like the whole adage about judging a book by its cover, and then look, that's part of being like a serious student is understanding that these resources, I mean, and I'm talking like, I mean, like 10,000 foot view here.
Yeah.
There aren't many high school kids that maybe are going to really sort of need that, but I would also argue that I was one of those kids, and that Cohasset has those kids that can go deep and broad and really be enriched by sort of that experience of a really broad collection.
Yeah, and I don't want you to think that all of our books are gonna be from like 2024. That's not gonna be the case. I mean, we're gonna keep.
Can I add to that? For example, on the fiction section, what we've done is we're going through, have gone through all the shelves. And we've kept all the classics. Not only we've kept them, we have very old books. They are marked as classics, so that we know that we keep them for a reason. And the kids know why. It's like if they see an old book, they'll know why it's an old book. It's marked as a classic, so that make it their interest. So it doesn't mean that we are going to throw that away.
Yeah.
It's just a way for us to figure out which ones need to go and which ones we can keep and carry on. And for the nonfiction, it's the same. Like that, we are going to get a new interpretation of Shakespeare. That doesn't mean that we need necessarily to get rid of the old one that we have. We can keep them both. Right, but there's going to be several books that if they've never been checked out or they are completely outdated, it doesn't make sense. We may have account for books for students, but if they are not being used, then the students look at the library as a wallpaper, and they are not being used. And what I'm seeing from the fiction section, that's the one that we've studied, is that we have more kids coming, we have more kids picking up the books, we have more checked out every time, and hopefully we can have the same thing with the nonfiction. That is not happening right now.
And it does take buy-in from the faculty, because they're the ones that will require the print sources. They're the ones that'll send kids down here, you know. And I think they've gotten away from that because this collection is aging so.
When this project is finished, where will that put us at number of books per child? Because that seems to be, you started your presentation with that. So I'm not great with the math of if we're cutting and only adding back 50%, but we're already low in terms of the number of titles per student.
You know, I almost left that slide out because Massachusetts says specifically, Massachusetts, the size and age of the library's print collection is no longer a reliable measure of access to up-to-date authoritative sources. However, underfunded school libraries will have smaller and probably older print collections. Also, the age of the collection may no longer be responsive to the curriculum, especially in duty categories such as science and social studies. So Massachusetts is saying they're not that worried about number of books per student. I'm actually, that's why I'm gonna take the slide out. I'm actually not that worried about it because my job as a research teacher is to find them a mix of sources. And that includes books, that includes database articles, that includes Google Scholar articles, I mean, the right mix. Ebooks, you know, now that we have Sora, ebooks as well. So I'm not that focused on, I don't know if I have a number to give you, I'm not that focused on that number. I think from what my little library circles, I hear you're better off with a smaller collection, a more vibrant collection, a collection that the kids don't go, oh my God, how old is this thing? You know, the kids that you'll get people using it more that way. I can get you that number. I can get you that number. Yeah.
I'll just put in a plug for More Than Words, which is a nonprofit organization in Boston. And I will drive any leftovers that you have into Boston. I've brought books there before, and it's just incredible.
So the sad thing is, they don't want our books. They're too old. And we called them.
Because I was just on their website.
Yeah, we called them, but we did. And, yeah, they don't want anything. They don't want anything that ancient. Yes. We are having a hard time rehoming these books because they're so old. Even the prison program, they took like a little section, I'm like, that's it? I thought you were gonna take the whole thing. Yeah.
Well, again, thank you, everyone who's here in support of this project, because I think it's a wonderfully sort of deep and rich and thoughtful endeavor.
Yeah, it really was helpful to have a consultant, to have outside eyes look at it, you know, and really, someone that had done collection analysis at many different schools. So, yeah, that was all money well spent.
Thank you, Ms. Leslie. Mr. McConnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Rudy, thank you so much for all that you do. You actually, you teach an extremely important subject, and I'd actually love to see expansion of our research programming here. I think it's such an important skill and important part of curriculum. So thank you for all that you do, and I will absolutely acknowledge my responsibility in leaving the windows open last meeting. It was extremely hot in here, and we forgot to clean them. But I'm closed them. But I'm so thankful that that project that was underneath the window that we forgot to close wasn't ruined. Especially because I sit here and enjoy it. It disappears for a brief second.
Isn't that
If it's
so
facing the right direction, it's very cool. Anyway, I was in favor of hearing more. I'm glad the chair had you come and present because I had no apprehensions about your responsibility in selecting the titles. I just wanted to hear more about how they are actually selected and so the criteria that were looked at, and you answered that question. I also want to know what the replacement plan was, and that was explained. And thank you to Indian. So that's amazing. That really is. That's a huge amount of money. That's before you told us it was coming from PSO, I was thinking to myself, okay, like we had to delete all additional programming so that just to pay for the rollover costs. And I was thinking, my God, how are we going to replace these? So that's amazing.
Yeah.
So thank you. My question, Mrs. Leskey frequently raises things in her comments. She always goes right before me, or most typically goes before me. She typically raises things that I sort of have similar concerns in my mind a lot of times as the ones that she raises. And so I just want to sort of ask a different iteration of the question she asked with the older titles. I was actually thinking that there could, just with a few of them, like I went through these and it was sort of eye-opening that we have some of these. I guess I could be misunderstanding though. The published date on the weeded list, is that the date the first edition was published and we have like a latter edition, or is that the published date of the book in our library?
That's the published book in our library.
So
that we could have this.
So that's it. It's actually really interesting that we have a few books that are like over 100 years old.
Yes, yeah.
And I wonder if there isn't some inherent value in retaining. There's only a handful of them.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it's like we could showcase them. Like there's one from
Yes,
1896.
exactly. So we've already
Oh.
started doing that.
Oh.
I want to jump in.
Okay.
So the idea is for some of those more older ones,
Yes.
either we can, for example, even donate them like to the Castle Historical Society, they can use them. And some of them, I was just going to pull them out of the shelves and create like a special section.
Yes.
Like,
That would
and
be
we
great.
already done, for example, we had a Winnie the Pooh fiction book on the adult section. It's like, why is Winnie the Pooh on the adult section? Well, then if you look closely, it was in Latin.
Yeah, we didn't put one.
So
Amazing.
of course, nobody's going to check that out, and it's been like sitting in that. I don't want to give that away, so
That's
that
amazing.
we're kind of keeping it for the library for ourselves. So
Okay.
yeah, it's
All
like
right.
we are going to be,
So-
even that, as we put them out to be taken away, we are going to be, if there's some teacher or somebody that want to keep that person in mind, and then there's going to be a few ones that we are going to keep as a library. I think that would be really-
Historical
so-
certificates.
So that's excellent to hear, because I thought there was one that was like, the works of Archimedes, and
Mhm.
that's not going to be added to, right?
Yeah,
No more coming
exactly.
out of him.
Exactly. It's
So,
kind of like,
Shakespeare, he's no longer with us.
He's no longer with us. So, but I think it would be kind of a cool book to showcase, and even have the kids have access to it if they, if it's in good enough
Mhm,
condition
yeah.
for it. If not, then they're sort of. Now, that was half of it. The other half was along the lines of what Ms. Leskey pointed out. I wonder if, like, I noticed like one of the older books was like, the American colonists, or it didn't even have to get that old either. That was like from 1910 or something like that. But I think that like, are there certain books where there's certain subjects may be on something that's now controversial, or the perspective that was presented in that book is very controversial now, or even offensive. I would actually love it if it's offensive, because it's like that to me, I think that sort of feeds the fires of sort of advocacy and shaping perspective. I wonder if there's a way that we could maybe select a few of those titles that maybe are a little bit interesting, regardless of what condition the books might be, and then pair them with a more recent one and sort of have like a historical, like comparative section where, and even maybe a research project can be built around that. I don't know, something like that, because I feel like, obviously many of these I understand, but there may be a select few that there may be something interesting we could do with them. And I wouldn't want to see just like jettisoning them and discarding.
We're right there with you. We have a little system over there that we do have, like, if you want to put a pink slip in it and say, I want it for my library, you can't take it, but you can just request it. If you put a purple slip in it, it's saying, really, you're going to get rid of this book from our library? Are you kidding me? I mean, that's what the purple slip is.
That's cool.
So,
All right.
yeah, so we are trying to look at like some really like special things. We have some really historic books. Like,
it just may be interesting, like some of these things to look at,
Yeah.
a topic that was, that someone wrote
Yeah.
about in 1947.
Yeah.
And now the same thing is something that people look at and evaluate now, and with a completely different perspective than what we had in 1947 as a society and a culture. So I don't know. It's just a thought. It sounds like you've already done both of those things. So
I think that has to be informed by our teachers too, because they like,
Yes,
we don't want to
absolutely.
keep it just to keep it. And like, I mean, and I have to kind of stay away sometimes because I'm a bit of a hoarder with books.
Sure.
Like I would keep everything. So, but it would be great to say, Ms. Palmieri says, we do this analysis, and then we know. We
Exactly.
should
That's
this.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Yes,
like
that's
something a little
that-
more targeted.
So if people have the bandwidth for that, that'd be great to see. But other than that, I thank you. This is a pretty big task, and I think it's, the students are well served by it. So thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Great, thank you, Mr. Vaughn. I'm unfortunately going to echo some of the same themes. First, thank you. This clearly needs to be done. It's not all that often we get presented with a packet double spaced this thick that requires us to really dig into it and much less create it. So thank you for this work. It's a very noble cause. One question that hasn't been asked yet, or at least directly, why? I mean, there's nothing stopping us from just acquiring new books. So why read at all?
Yeah, okay, I can answer that. So in my library circles, mainly the Mass School Library Association, it's pretty much proven that if you leave old dingy books on the shelf, kids will not be interested in your library. And we've actually proven it in the fiction section. We
fiction,
watched it
yes.
happen. We're like, well, what if we just put them together? I was like, oh, come on.
Well, it's what I said about the middle schooler, right, that came in and said, wow, now this is starting to feel like a real library. Because they were fiction, we could say, we could keep them all. But now that we've taken them off the shelves and they seem emptier, but now we have the newer books all displayed and tagged, and by what they are being used much more.
That is a great answer.
It matters. It matters. What they see matters.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I will take that, and that knocks up two other questions. The other one I do, and I may feel more strongly than my colleagues. I was a history major in college, and one of the most impactful courses I took was history of film. And I'll be honest, I took it because I thought it was going to be like an easy course, and I just watch movies. But the professor was unbelievable. He had us watch old movies, and not just write about the movies, but write about what this movie said about the time in which it was made. So you go back and these movies made in 1950, and people are smoking left, right, and center. What does it tell you about the societal norms of that time? So it's less about what the movie says and what it says about the time in which it was created. And we have a lot of that in this list of 2,300. We've got some, and Mr. McCullen noted some from like 1898 is one I saw. But I'll just note a couple that I just highlighted here that may fall into that that category. There was one book from 1961 about the relationship between the United States and Soviet Union. My goodness, that's like right in the thick of the Cold War. That
Primary
perspective.
source.
Primary source.
Yeah.
So I guess, and I'm not going to, I don't think it's this committee can micromanage your decision making. But I guess I would strongly urge real, not just, purple slip and say, oh, someone wants to take up their library, but really make sure that we are looking for those pieces of, not just what it says about the United States and Russia in 1961, but what it says about 1961. And I guess, have you done that through that? And maybe that book is just one that's broken and old, just needs to go. But even if it hasn't been checked out since 1992, maybe as Mr. McCollum said, we put those in a different section that highlights them, not for their substance, but rather for their existence.
So, and I think that's where we bring our history department, which I actually happen to be a member of, part of the history department. So that's helpful there at some of our department meetings, getting our history department to take a good look at what they think should be, exactly what you're saying, like preserved in that way.
Here's one thing. Think magazine's diary of U.S. participation in World War II, 1950. 5 years after the war ended. That must be fascinating to see what that is. I'll put a purple slip in that one, or whichever one I get to take it home if we do.
And then we take a short
I'll
seat.
take.
Yeah.
There's like Shakespeare. I'm also a book.
I mean, we were thinking of like at some point, inviting the community to take a look at
Here's a fun one. Hot Rodded and Run for Fun, 1957. It's about modifying cars, I imagine, and it's just a different world. People think about cars differently than they did.
Yeah.
He said, "What does that tell us about the '50s?" So
I know what's sitting there thinking, yes, but if it just sits there.
Yeah, my thing is like, there's a lot of these books that we're not saying that are bad books.
No.
Yeah.
It's just that are books that our kids are not using.
Well, maybe it's because we need to repurpose their presentation.
Right.
We put them in a.
I think that's no presentation. I mean, high schoolers are incredibly busy. Barely we check out any fiction books or like books reading for fun for high schoolers because they are loaded with classes and they have a huge amount of projects. So there's not a lot of spare time in their hands to browse and just go for different kind of books. And right now, our nonfiction being so old, we are not even a reference for that. So the idea with this project is, and talking to the teachers and seeing what are their projects that they are doing, is to have books in the library that we are going to be a reference. That if they say, oh, I have a project, I'm sure that if I go to the library, I can find such and such that's going to help me with this project. So I'm sure that there's going to be books that are incredibly interesting. That is like, oh, I would read it on my free time. It's just that I think that a lot of those books are not serving our students.
So I guess, and that point's well made, and we'll take on my point from an ask as this will be presented to the committee, and I do not expect, although I will open up if there's a line item discussion of the 2,300 books, I don't expect that from the committee. But as you go through and implement this reading, if there are ways where we can find uses for the books beyond their substance, that tell something about the period, maybe it's in consultation with the history. That hot run, that sounds like fun. But there could be an element of historical research that goes along with that. What can this book tell you about the culture and the times in the 1950s in the United States? So I just asked to take that one extra layer before we let all these things go, to make sure we're not letting go of hidden treasures that people haven't found because they just look at the library as old books.
Yep.
But then when you see an old book in a library of new books, it stands out differently. It must mean something new. So,
Right. It might have something to say.
yes.
Or paired with
Or paired.
same stuff.
That's all I have. Thank you so much for this.
Yeah.
Any last questions, Councilor Coon?
Do we know if the Cohasset Public Library, do they want any of this? You doubt it. Do you want to ask?
I think that I've talked to them too, and they've pretty much done the same thing. I mean,
Okay.
they've also, like, if you go to their science fiction section, because it's not the one that I'm working lately, so I'm more, if they go, I went there and I looked at there and it's like, oh, great, like they have just all of these books. So they're going through the same process, just having the most recent ones, for example, because those are the ones that are moving and they're getting the kids into the library.
You can ask them. I will definitely reach out to them.
I do
We're very well connected.
Just one other comment, and this, this is probably related to Doc, so not on this library, but how are our other libraries?
Yeah, the other libraries need some work as well. Yeah, they do. That was an area, all of our library catalogs need refurbishing. So it's an investment we're gonna have to make over the years.
Yeah, but the Deer Hill, because of the innovation space, they actually did do a lot of that, looking at what
They did.
books. So they did read out some books.
Yeah. But
torn books.
but the process, and we've talked about this in our group, needs to happen, just as Ms. Sudi did here, that process of evaluating our books at the elementary libraries needs to happen too.
Yeah, it just needs to be a
So that
cycle,
would be
just like everything else.
future
It's a
change.
cycle. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
cycle, right? So,
Right.
you know, over time, it hasn't, you know, they've done the best job they can, but, you know,
It should-
now
A
it's
lot of
kind of like,
other things that just have.
right, we just need a.
Ongoing maintenance.
So
Let's
so
look
that's.
at those schools too.
Yep. Sorry.
And I think nonfiction collection wise, I think, you know, your biggest bang for the buck is gonna be your high school students that, you know, are unique in research projects.
Now, I will say at the elementary level, you have a lot of classroom libraries too. And the classroom libraries have definitely been attended to and refurbished recently and need to more.
Right.
But,
We keep adding.
but remember, there's that extra layer and you don't have that as much at the middle lines.
So that may be something we look at at a future agenda item. But I do think we have what we need now, Mr. Reedy. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
There is a item related to this designated for a vote, and it's to approve the disposal of the designated weighted library books. And so I'll open that for discussion. Do we have a motion to move it, or to move the approval of the weeding, or any discussion on that? Mr. Collins?
I make the motion to approve the reading of the books listed on the reading list.
Second.
Then motion made by Mr. McCollum, motion seconded by Mr. Cuny. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous approval. Ms. Rudy, please responsibly read the.
I was just gonna say, we will do the right thing.
I have no doubt in my mind, so thank you very much for
Not gonna
your
get rid of
continued
it.
effort.
Thank you, Monty, as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your.
Don't look at that as a requirement to read if you find something on this list that you want to retain.
Yeah, that's a good point, good point. Thank you for your time.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Keep the oldest one, no matter what it's about.
yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
The oldest one in our library, right?
I am going over there. I'm just gonna start taking stuff home.
It's like, now we know where it is.
Yeah.
Oh.
I believe it's the Dead Sea Scrolls.
I'm telling you, I think it's secret.
Oh, we found- shh. All right, so that'll close off our invited guests. That was a lengthy invited guest, but we got a lot done, so I'm happy with that. We'll now move on to school updates and give it the time. And Dr. Sullivan, if we can go quickly through school updates,
We
we have
will.
some significant ones, I understand.
We sure do have some significant ones. There are a lot of things that happened. Oh, come on. Making me sign in publicly.
Nope.
Uh-oh.
I have the shortest password on the man. See, it's not short. Good luck trying to figure that one out.
It's password.
Well, I'll turn this over a little bit to Chairman Dial, but I just wanted to formally congratulate future Superintendent Shannon. I think that we had wonderful candidates, but Cohasset chose a great person, and I'm fully confident she's going to move the district in the way it needs to be moved, and I'm absolutely committed to helping her transition, but I'll leave it over to you to congratulate. There's a lot of big things. We had the eclipse, we had, recycled parts, but I think this might have been the biggest one.
Yeah, no, so, and I'll let, for people who can't see, Ms. Shannon's with us tonight in the audience. So she's already demonstrating her commitment to our district. We're very excited about her accepting our appointment. And we look forward to working with her as into the future. So thank you very much.
And we did have some other things. We have recycled parts, which was it's a wonderful annual arts show for the whole community where the community can make art out of anything. And they certainly did. It was on full display in our cafeteria. Just some of them you can see. Monsi, who was speaking about our refurbishing in library, created those two snowflakes out of bookmarks. which I think they're over there in the library. It was pretty amazing. We have a night made out of various, I think, tape items, which was pretty incredible. I just show you some of them. You can see, you know, the CD fish stood out to me. Some just excellent work by students and staff and community members, just showing the creativity. And we had a lot of students there that were really proud of their own recycled art. And you can see one of our students there was her own robot,
Yes.
which I thought was absolutely adorable and wonderful. So it's nice for students to see the use. Art can be made from anything, and that was I love that. I think it's a very authentic project.
So fun, and the children are just, all the students, when you ask them, you know, what was their inspiration, what did they do, they have so much to tell you, and they want to tell you everything. It was really wonderful.
It was fabulous, and of course we had our solar eclipse, as Grace talked about, and I'm happy to say everything went safely, and we had educational experiences at every level. So it was wonderful, and just some, you know, there's some students from Deer Hill, that's Deer Hill, looking out at the eclipse safely and learning about it. And we had teachers talk about the eclipse, how it was created, the significance of it, to teach them about it. There's some really good lessons going on. That's our middle school on the
Yeah, Mrs. Toole and Miss Yindra,
the
they did a
field.
whole thing, and they spoke without a microphone, I believe, to all those students, and they were
science department.
really engaged.
Really great. I didn't get the high school, but the high school was all out on the front field. And this is Osgood. Just a few pictures of Osgood. Really cute. I did have them at, I went there for dismissal as they were coming out. There were a few students who really thought they were gonna melt if they looked up near but they were cute and wonderful. We helped them, and the team was really comforting to them. It was just funny watching. And then I just a shout out for our April 11th, tomorrow night, our annual Mosaic event. And it's last year was a highlight, and I think it's going to be great this year as well. Really highlighting the diversity we have here in Cohasset that people may not be aware of. I learned a lot and had a lot of fun last time, and I'll be there tomorrow night as with Dr. Scollins week. Love table of sorts.
Yes.
Yes. And I just wanted to do a shout out to some of our scholar athletes here. We have Charlie Lankow and Angela Grimes, who were both congratulated as league scholar all-stars at the banquet. So couldn't have two better people be acknowledged. I thought I'd put that as my sort of final updated slide.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sullivan. We'll close off school updates and go on to teaching and learning. Again, this is kind of a placeholder just to keep our eye on the ball for academic initiatives. So
So
Dr. Scollins. I'll turn it over to
So
you.
we finished our first wave of MCAS for ELA in all our schools. So we will be looking at math in May, and then science will be end of May or June, depending on if it's elementary, middle, or secondary. So, and then the newest one is that there's a civics field test for our grade 8 students. Grade 8's getting a lot of extra play this year. And then science. Yeah, there's a lot. They have significant amount of
And they
assessment.
considered it, you know, as from the state, if that they could put it other places, and they determined they couldn't.
So they put it in,
But it's a heavy pull
It
for
is.
our 8th
I mean,
graders.
it's 2 days of testing in every content area, and then you add civics on top of that. And then we also have our iReady. So we're actually looking at it at our last superintendent student advisory council. Dr. Sullivan, I can give her somewhere else. So I got to speak to the students, and so Charlie Lankow said, "So, Dr. Sullivan, you take care of all the teaching and learning." I
Dr.
said,
Scollins.
"I do." Oh, Dr. Scollins, sorry. I said, "I do." So then they just talked to me. I thought we talked for over an hour. They gave some really good feedback, things that they really liked. But an 8th grader brought this up and said, you know, we have a lot of testing, and then we have iReady testing. You know, could you think about maybe, you know, looking at the iReady testing? So we're actually talking to Mr. Mills about it. I'm looking at what is it that we have to do the MCAS. What is it that the iReady data will give us for 8th grade? the end. So we're gonna have some conversations out of the mouths of our children. I think
It's kind of,
really
it's
important.
kind of the end of the rainbow on our testing
It is.
with
and-
iReady.
Yeah,
It's
so we're
really
looking at some of the
for
benchmarks
growth
and some of the, what's the threshold? So, anyway, so more to talk about on that one. And then, we were talking about computer science, and so I was invited up to, and I'm gonna try and make this, all the stuff on my screen.
Hit the slideshow.
Can't see, there's a bit too many things there. Ms. Nielsen, our newest teacher, she does half math, half computer science. And so she invited me up and I was playing games with the students and they created games within their coding. And so it was really, really fun. And so Principal Scott and I were rotating through and playing different games with the kids. And so they were then reviewing their games. So this has grown exponentially. She had 8 students register for the class the first day. So her numbers jumped up, and then next year she has 30 students, which she hadn't had in the past. So they're going to run 2 sessions. So you grow it and they will come. So we're really excited about
And
that.
I know that's been a push from the school committee as well.
It has. So I want to thank you so much because it is really working. So the work we're doing at the elementary, but then the middle school, the growth with Lindsay Kay and those courses, and then our work with Adam Sasso and now with Maddie, yes, and it's just been unbelievable. So I'm really excited about that. And then our Student Opportunity Act was approved by DESE, like that, which was really nice. Last year they had asked us to do some revisions. This year they did not. So I was excited to deliver that information. And then we are contracting with Susan Looney, who is a math consultant company, and she's working with our middle school math teachers, and in particular, looking at how are we going to create our accelerated with our new resource of illustrative math. So that's been some really nice work, and that started last week, and she'll be working again with us on Friday. But the consultant working with us has worked with DESE for years, was a middle school and math teacher, works really closely with illustrative math in other towns. She also knows Bridges really well, so it's just a really good fit. And then finally, our investigating history, which is what we've looked at for 5th grade, 6th grade, and 7th grade. It's a DESE open source programming. The teachers have really enjoyed it, in particular our 5th grade teachers, and we collaborated with Situate. And our hope was to continue that collaboration with a grant. We're no longer going to be able to, we weren't allowed to apply for the grant because we didn't follow the threshold. However, in speaking with Plymouth, they also are implementing investigating history, and they also have Readers Workshop. And one of the things that we wanted to do is coordinate our literature and our work in investigating history with our reading curriculum, because they are so interconnected, and that's what DESE wants us to do also. And so the investigating history is very much laden with the ELA standards and then the content. So it's that blend that we're really trying to make happen. And so we're going to be working with the public schools because they're doing the same thing we are. And I'm going to call Situate and see if they want to do the same. So, so that was a really nice surprise collaboration that came to light on Friday when Rob Roberts and I were at a meeting for assistant superintendents and curriculum directors in the South Shore. So lots of good things going on, tons more, but.
Any questions, comments from the committee? Mr. Collins?
Mr. Chair. Dr. Scollins, you mentioned that the students were concerned about the amount of testing.
Eighth grade.
Specifically in 8th grade students. Though there may be other concerns from other grade levels that just weren't raised.
They were just, that was the group ahead.
I have been thinking recently, so I understand this is mandated by the state. I'm just wondering if you know, and you can like maybe explain a little bit, why is it that the MCAS have 2 days of the same subject of testing? Because like generally speaking, in any sort of assessment, whether it's for getting into college or professional licensure or whatever, it's usually you take tests and that's it. There's not, it's not 2 days of the same subject matter spread out over 2 days. Now, there might be a multiple day examination, but it's not the same thing on multiple days. I'm wondering, do you have any insight into why DESE administers the MCAS that way?
So great question. I did ask that a long time ago because I've been involved with MCAS for such a long time. They claim that they need to have the 2 sessions in order to be able to assess whether the students really actually know what they want to know. Plus, at the same time, they also have questions in there that they're not being graded on their pilot test questions. So that's built in there too. So sometimes we have tests, there's questions that we don't ever get answers to. Because it's either really too high or too low. They're not really sure, so they're testing it out. So that's part of the process. So yes, in a perfect world, I'd like to see it a little different.
And I'll add something to that as
Yeah.
well. I think the perception of the test being too long is not shared by DESE.
Yes.
I don't believe they did express sensitivity about the addition of a test, an 8th grade civics test to that grade level, but they didn't think it could fit anyplace else because of the curriculum, or the curriculum flows. But I don't think that there's agreement on their part that we're over testing our students. In fact, I think they feel that it is pretty much in tune with if you have a certain amount of hours you have on learning at the elementary level, that, and they track I've been told, they track very closely how long students are testing, and they do not feel that it is too long. So I just want to say that as well. We may feel that way and think it's universally accepted. I do not believe that's DESE's opinion.
It isn't, but I will say this, we're kind of taking an informal assessment or informal poll test around because our 5th grade students and our 8th grade students, some 6th and 7th grade, have taken a very, very long time this time around on their ELA, like the whole day. And that's unusual, the number. You're always going to have a few students who are going till the very last second. But in general, it's a very small number. We saw a huge increase. Now, it could be because we've done so much work around writing, and so they really want to make sure that they show what they're doing. Not really sure, because I heard Situate say the same. I've heard other things. So other towns are saying their kids are really spending a lot more time. Now, we're not sure why, but it's just kind of interesting that that's happening. So to Dr. Sullivan's point, they do track, and they can tell us the number that, their number and how long they took to take the exam on every kid. And they analyze all of that. So I'm going to be curious if we see an uptick in their data. No, I don't know if they'll share it with us. I'm not really sure. But they kind of feel comfortable that, the kids are in 180 days and it's only 10 days of testing,
And the amount of hours. And I was, to my point, I thought it was universally accepted that we were sort of over testing students. And that was not
the state level.
the answer I was.
Okay, I'm getting concerned because, we're education's evolving in a lot of ways. One of the ways is that it's becoming more and more data driven in terms of, development curriculum. And we have to balance these concerns. So obviously MCAS is really a state and district evaluation tool. Okay, so if you're gathering data on how the district's performing in comparison to the entire state. And then we need to deploy assessments within this, like intramural assessments to assess our students and their achievement.
Right, they're different assessments.
Okay, so we have to do both, because one's mandated by the state, one we need to do to make sure we're doing a good job with our students.
So one summative.
That's right. Okay, and then we have to make sure that we're providing our students individual teaching and learning time, right? And aside from assessments, we have to teach them. So we're balancing all these things, and it's evident when we get into these assessment seasons or whatever you want to call them. There's a lot of it, right? And I'm just wondering if that's fine that DESE doesn't believe it, and obviously they don't because they're the ones that are driving this. I'm just wondering if maybe there's a larger conversation to be had, not tonight, about whether or not we can get, a sort of more collaborative approach from district to district in sort of presenting to DESE that we understand that you have your data and you monitor this and you don't feel it's an issue, but we, the educators, we, the district leaders, we, the school committees, all think that you're wrong.
Yeah, I think folks are doing that, and I think that's a good approach. And I'm not trying to say that DESE's not listening. I just think that they're they're also cautioning us not to really teach to the
Right,
test, so
they
to
don't-
speak. They're really sort of against us doing any type of test
Like,
prep.
yeah,
They feel like the best test prep is a good lesson. I don't disagree, but I also think you have to get students used to taking the test, and you have to, you know,
It's
there has to be a
shown.
certain, you have to have a certain amount of practice, right? Just so you know how the tool works, you need to know
Exactly.
how to answer questions. So I think what they're talking about is that some, you know, that and the struggle with this, we can get into a whole conversation around this, right? That the MCAS kind of pits districts against each other, right? It's this competition piece, right? So, and your funding and things like that are all kind of based on what numbers you hit. So,
accountability.
right, your accountability. And so I think that, you know, if you're a district that's struggling, you may put things in place that are more test driven so that you can do better on the test. My philosophy is the same as Dr. Sullivan is if we teach the standards and do what we're supposed to do for our students, then they're gonna do fine on the assessment. But we also have to teach children how to take a test. So,
And luckily,
that
I think the questions are getting, I found that they've improved, and that they're actually, they're looking at things like doing a more hands-on science testing, and so they are attenuating to the quality of the test.
yes.
But I would not agree with their assessment about the length of the test.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're shifting their assessments, what Dr. Sullivan's talking about too, for the science for grade 5 and grade 8, there's a shift in the types of questions that they're asking. They did it for physics a couple of years ago. Same, so it's more of more of a problem solving approach.
Equally, right?
Yeah, and so that's showing up. So our students are going to be part of that also. So there's going to be some questions that are directly related to that inquiry-based witness. We won't necessarily get, there won't be individual student grade on that, but we'll get data back.
Okay, so I mean, I don't, we're not gonna solve
Yeah,
the
I know,
problem
it's
tonight,
a
but as you are working with other districts, like you were just explaining, can you maybe ask them their thoughts on that topic?
Sure.
Because if we find that there's more and more districts that agree, it may be worth sort of, you know, petitioning, for lack of a better phrase, DESE to dig a little deeper in that area. So just, you know, sort of long-term goal, and, you know, sorry for this tangent, but it's just, I feel kind of strongly about it. I think we're getting really assessment heavy because of the way it's evolving, and we just need to be careful. We have to get that. We have to, and but MCAS is just one of the many that we.
Right.
And our data storing needs to be really tight with, you know, we have to be really careful that our assessments are giving us the information we need.
Right. All right, thank you for hearing me out. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. I do want to just build on that, and perhaps for our next teaching and learning update, maybe we can get just a summary of all the testing that our kids are taking by grade level, you know.
Well, we're working on that. That's part of what we're creating. We're doing our curriculum mapping. And then the second part of that is really looking at our benchmarks, but we do
Right.
have all.
We could, so I can show you, obviously there's testing that happens within the classroom, right? That's whether
Not
it's that
those,
part,
it's
but, right, but you want to see kind of the
Standardized.
standardized
iReady,
tests, but then the
MCAS.
iReady, right, our fall and winter and spring benchmark stuff, I can share that.
Yeah.
with you.
And
It's interesting to see by grade level.
well,
Yeah.
and
Well-
proudly we can do this now. We couldn't have done that 5 years ago.
Right.
And there's still growth though. There's still those benchmark subject matter
Right,
assessments
so that's what we're working on.
that is in our strategic plan to build. So, yeah.
And
But
maybe
I
the
can
timing
do-
of that too, so we can list them, and also the timing
Yeah.
of when they're usually administered, because there is a general time.
There are, I have it by month, yeah.
Yeah,
So you can
just
kind of see when it falls.
approximation, like it doesn't have to be.
Yeah,
I can do that.
And the purpose of it.
Right, yeah,
Great.
and we're constantly looking at that. So right now, if we eliminated some assessments that were last year, I think last year. And we had an elementary team together and we looked at all our assessments and we realized that there were some that were overlapping that wasn't worth doing for the students. So, you know, just kind of working with teachers to be able to get the best data most efficiently. Because,
And that it reflects the curriculum.
correct.
That's
And that's a really big piece of it, because to your point, if you keep assessing a kid, you're not growing them. Our job is to grow them.
Right,
But we need
they're
to
getting a
check-
lot out of it. The projects they were doing today, right, that they're gonna get a lot more out of that than taking a test. We have to, which I know the new superintendent would agree with as well, based on our interviews.
Yeah.
And so I just,
Well, and you're talking about those assessments where we're drawing data
Right.
yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Right, versus, you know,
versus
kind of
formal
the
assessments,
informal and.
which
we're
are
doing
crucial.
That's
Right, but-
right, and we've done a ton of work.
I do want to close that off just to keep
Yeah.
us moving on pace, but I think
Happy
we've
to
got
do
the
that.
idea.
Yep.
The other piece of, I just want to pass on some community feedback. There was a nice presentation at Osgood, I think this week, or maybe late last week,
Yeah.
about curriculums and whatnot.
Map.
One of the pieces of feedback that I received kind of obliquely, but it's worth passing on, is that would be more useful earlier in the year.
Yes, we've already
Because-
suggested that,
Yep.
yeah.
Because it's like, you've already done it. So, and especially for the
Completely.
second graders, they're moving into Deer Hill.
Completely adjusted
So-
for next year.
So, anyway, just wanted to pass that on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's great.
Well, the thought is.
thank you. Now we will move on to the dreaded budget, resources and governance block. And I will turn it over to our Director of Finance and Operations, Ms. Susan Owen. We have two sub-bullets for you. First is FY '25 budget. I will just refer the committee to the presentation that was made at the public hearing. And note that unless something has changed from there, I think nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed.
And so I think the item of business is, I will open up the floor for any comments or questions for the committee, but the item of business is to approve this as our recommended budget for FY '25. So I'll open up the floor. I see Mr. McCollum. Mr. McCollum, you have the floor.
Unless there are any outstanding questions, which I feel like we already talked about it at the public hearing, I'd like to move to approve the budget as presented at the public hearing.
Are there any questions, comments, worries about FY *25 budget? If so, I'll note there's a motion on the table to approve the budget as presented at the public hearing and then as taken as read at the committee meeting. Do I have a second for that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Carr. Motion made by Mr. Carr, seconded by Mr. Carr. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Excellent. The FY '25, the FY '25 budget is approved to recommend as that. So Ms. Owen, please move forward with that.
Can we, at least identify the numbers? I think we should call out, what the budget number, what we're looking for.
I think we did that at the hearing,
Okay.
and we'll just take that as read on the screen. So, I mean, we can just read it.
It's a number in
for
the
the record.
presentation, we just approved the budget presented.
Okay.
So with that, we'll move on to everybody's favorite, FY '25 capital budget. Ms. Owen, I'll turn it over to you. And I do have, after your portion, I do have an update from presentation to the capital committee and the, and as I hear hearsay presentation from the select board presentation. In your materials is agenda item F2. And what you'll see is this is the FY update, FY '25 capital as we presented to capital based on the feedback of this committee at the last meeting.
So here is the most up-to-date draft of our FY '25 capital list that has been revised several times. We've had several meetings at budget subcommittee levels, school committee levels. Here is, you'll see the top items with the C to the left is just our regular capital and what our requests are.
And Ms. Owen, if I could ask to bifurcate the presentation to capital and then stabilization fund, just for process.
I'm sorry.
If we could divide the presentation, so we'll start with capital, then I might ask for a motion.
Just go to the green stuff first.
Okay, I don't know if you want me to read through what our capital requests are for our diesel buses, the lease for $150,000. Our electric bus, which should be here next week, which is $25,000 a year lease. Replacement of our aging Chromebooks at $52,000. Replace all projectors with interactive presentation equipment, 46 classrooms for $225,483. Replacements of furniture at the Deer Hill, we've been doing one grade level at a time for the last few years, for $35,000. Chromebooks at the Deer Hill Elementary, currently 2 of the grades are sharing This would make it so every grade level had their own set at $35,000. And then athletic department is looking for 2 15-passenger passenger vans for sports trips for $31,946, which is the cost of these for 2 vans for years.
And it's something that we did together present this to capital.
We do.
Mind offering any feedback or anything on that presentation, capital?
We had discussion about buses, and why the need. I mean, there was I don't want to say miscommunication or disconnect, but we always felt we needed the 8 diesel buses, and the electric would be the +1. And I think the initial presentation was the electric bus would take the place of one of our buses, but just based on,
So it would be bus, the understanding was it would have been bus 8,
right, and instead it's going to be bus 9.
the +1.
And do the +1. It's limited, it can't leave town, so that's one of the reasons we didn't want to replace one of our existing diesels with that bus. And we certainly could use the additional bus.
Yeah, so I think we made the case to capital, and capital was very receptive to the idea that given our increase, even though we've had flat enrollment, given our scheduling issues and the distribution of student population, we have increased in routes.
Yes.
And because we've increased in routes, we have more demand on our buses. And so in order to run our 8 routes, we need 10 buses is the project. And they were amenable to that, understanding that. So there were also some questions on the passenger vans about whether or not that this could be a break-even proposition, because the passenger vans would allow for us to not have to rent out third parties for third-party buses in order to meet athletic needs. And then also we wouldn't have to use our big commercial vehicles to drive, smaller teams. So we sent some follow-up analysis for that, but all told, the capital committee seemed very amenable to our requests, with the caveat that because of structural issues going on with the town, the capital stabilization fund from which all of this is funded has not grown over the past decade or so with inflation, because it has not been so earmarked, and the needs have grown. So there's more demands on that fund and less capability to provide it. So I think that's kind of where we are in capital. We'll move on to stabilization fund in a moment, but at this point, any questions, comments from the committee on the proposed capital requests?
Similar to,
Mr. Kearney.
yes, thank you. Similar to what we asked for the operating budget. We're gonna put that out there as far as our goals are concerned on the website. Maybe we can also put in what we did ask for. The fence isn't in there. There's a lot of things that we look to sidewalks. So I was wondering maybe where would, I just don't want to see it buried somewhere. Where can that, and it also gives us tools too, because it can be, well, what's the story with the sidewalks? Oh, thank you for asking, because we've been asking. Here it is. So I think maybe if we could put some of the wish lists up on the website.
Like maybe future capital.
Yeah, future capital, along with the
Possibilities.
future. Yeah, and also too, is if you want to, we do have a donate page. People can buy us a fence. I just say, same thing with the operating. If somebody has $60,000 and wants to get us to teach it for a year.
Right.
Throw it out there.
Yeah, we do have a nice scoreboard being donated.
That's what I'm talking about. Like, those are the things that, at least they'll know when somebody says, well, why is the sidewalk so banged up? It's like, well, get involved. You want to help us? Go to one of these meetings. So what do you guys think of that? Just to let people know that, because we did a lot of work on that. We just don't want to see it just fly away somewhere. So it's just an ask. It's what we asked for. It's not what we got, but we still ask for.
Thanks, great idea.
Yeah, I can certainly obviously publish the budget and that we've decided on, and the capital and stabilization that we've voted through. But I can also put a list of some of the other items that we didn't put on this, but that may be needed in the district.
And we do have the 10-year plan of capital request and what I thought about it going forward.
It's just good, 'cause-
Yeah, I think having something like that would help us to have a little more discipline on our longer term planning. So that's an excellent suggestion. So I think I'm gonna, yes, Mr. McCollum.
A point was raised about the Chromebooks. I remember the select board to me that I hadn't thought of before. So, and now I'm thinking of another one as I'm looking at this. Miss Owen, the third item, replacement of aging Chromebooks, 540 for a 3-year lease, price of $143,100. But then does that price fluctuate year to year, because the price is actually would be 156,000, not 143,100. So is there so in future years, are we paying less?
No, it's 52 for the amount of the lease.
And that's all
that-
from our, that's from town tech, really. It's
Right.
Yeah, I think that was also incorrect with the capital at 143.
It was at 60, I think it was at 69,000 was the lease amount instead of 52. So I went back and looked at the actual lease payment.
So I think Ms. McCollum's point is that 52 times 3 doesn't equal
Right.
43.
That is fine.
So it's the 143.
The
Not,
143 should probably not be even listed.
Should not be what?
so we'll just,
156.
Yeah, either get rid of it or put 156.
Right.
It doesn't add up. Yeah.
Now,
Right.
yeah. All right.
that's all that.
I guess, as long as that's the price,
That is
right?
the price, that's the
It's
price
Okay.
of last year.
I mean, we could just go ahead and delete it, but it doesn't necessarily make it true.
Yes, it does. No. I'm just kidding.
All right,
You know how
okay.
resolutions work.
And then, we're buying 100, I'm guessing that adding the Chromebooks, we're buying those 100 Chromebooks for $35,000? So I mean, the 350 piece?
Right.
Okay. But then we're getting 540 of them over a 3-year period for, as we just stated, 156,000. So is it more cost effective? Like if you multiply the 100 Chromebook figure times 5, that's $175,000 or something like that. So that's more than $156,000. So would it be better to, why don't we have the same, well, why don't we just have the same approach to, is there a reason we buy them at the elementary level as opposed to leasing them?
It's all through our town tech. It's all Ron and crew.
Ron Menard has opined on that. And he said, and his view was that it was cost and bill, whether we buy or lease when we're at this number.
I think at 540, you get different economies of scale versus just 100.
And 100 doesn't matter, so you might as well just buy it. That's what.
That lines up with what,
Okay, what about leasing 640?
We are,
We're in the,
we'd have to bring Ron in to really
right.
talk
We're
about
in the
those
third
numbers.
year of that lease.
I mean, we're only talking about
We
a
can do
delta
that.
of like maybe 20, I'm just, there may be, like, if we're able to, I don't know, if we're able to save $20,000 to $40,000, it might be something where,
This question came up in capital, and it may
Right.
be that this is not funded in hopes that we add it to a larger lease next year. So we would not buy it, instead we roll it into we do a 640 lease next year. This is the way we get them for next year.
okay.
But if we don't get them next year, then we would have a full lease on them, at least 600.
Okay, it was raised by members of select board. I thought it was it was a decent question. And then I just noticed that math didn't add up right now as I'm looking at it on the other thing. So that's it. That was it. That's all I have. Thank you.
any other questions, comments on capital budget for the committee? So hearing none, I will see if there's a motion to approve the capital budget as presented to the committee as discussed here for presentation to town.
So
Motion made by Mr. McCollum. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Carr. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, the capital budget is hereby approved by unanimous vote of the committee. So Ms. Owen, please move forward with the capital budget.
Thank you.
If you can now take us on the stabilization fund request as laying the groundwork. In addition to our regular capital requests, the town has generously approved a stabilization fund for capital expenses for the schools.
This was intended as a tool for us to manage our increasing capital needs associated primarily with large and aging facilities, such as the building that we're in. So this tune is funded to the tune of, or this fund is funded to the tune of $1.5 million each year. And due to the Magic Municipal Finance, we have $1.5 million in the bank now. We will have $1.5 million being added for the next year and every year going forward. The fund is also built in to increase with Prop 2.5, so the 1.5 million can be adjusted upwards, up to 2.5% increase every year. And that is the planning tool that we have. It can be adjusted downwards in the view of the select board, but that's not the plan. And according to at least the one point in discussion of capital, that would be a fantastically not great idea for anyone to do that. So that's the scope and purpose of the stabilization fund. And with that, Zoe and I'll walk you through, or you can walk us through what we have now and discussions that we have with capital.
Certainly. So again, we've met multiple times here and at budget subcommittee, and we did, Lance and I did meet with capital. And, the top priority, and we also looked at our security and safety reports that we had done. And the fire alarm in this building is definitely in need of an engineering study to find out exactly what we need and how long of a lifespan it has left. At the tune of $175,000, that their facilities is estimating a little over $1 million to actually redo the fire alarms here at the Middle High School. They are working fine. There's nothing wrong with them. They're just becoming, end of life, and need to be upgraded. So that was the $175,000. The second line item we talked about at budget subcommittee was it's kind of a generalized for $250,000 safety of buildings. So we again would use those safety reports. It would be upgrading lighting, looking at health and infrastructure considerations, the signage within the schools, inside and out. And many other things could fall into that category. We just haven't had time to identify and take quotes for those types of things. And then the third one was the finished retiling classrooms at Deer Hill. So we did not do any this year. Previous years, we did partial classrooms and hallways. So this 300,000 would actually finish Deer Hill. They would be completely retiled in all classrooms and hallways for 300,000. And then the idea was the remaining balance of the 1.5 would stay in the stabilization fund and roll into next year, when we could add to it and possibly fund some of the bigger items that we have upcoming, like we've talked about paving. We were kind of sticker shock when we found out it's going to cost over $1 million just to pave the Deer Hill and the Osgood, and then another little over $1 million to do this site. So things like that, roofs.
And then in our 10-year plan, there's a lot of big items, and those big items need attention.
And I will say at the capital meeting, they were fully on board with the fire alarms. They had a good understanding of the Deer Hill classrooms. They were a little uncertain about the $250,000 because there was nothing actually identified, or there were no quotes provided. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Lance.
Yeah, I guess I'll underscore. So the safety of buildings line item received no support from any member of the capital committee. The concerns were the vagueness of the request led to very little opportunity for oversight. It was unclear whether these items were capital items or whether operating budget items. Much of the descriptions that suggested that they would be more operating expense items rather than capital items. And so they were very hesitant to, on the information provided, provide any sort of indication that that would be an appropriate use of the stabilization fund. I'll also add that this was, and I didn't know this was going to happen, this was also presented at the select board, where it received zero support from any select board member for being put on the warrant if would be proposed. So given that reaction from the pathway forward, my recommendation would be to proceed with a stabilization request of just the fire alarm and just the retiling. I will note that the ideas behind the safety of buildings line item did receive support from the capital budget committee, including line items about, as specifically line items about signage. So what the recommendation was and advice was there would be to come back during either the special town meeting that we have in the fall or through some of the other periods that we have. If there are safety concerns that we can identify with specificity, there are other areas where we can access emergency capital funds or periodic disbursements of town funds to address that. So again, we're interested in actually helping the schools through some. It was just a reaction that the method by which we're making the request was not an appropriate vehicle. So it's again one of the ideas where I think the capital and select were on the same page that these things need to be done, but we're not at all of the view that this should be done through a large allocation and disbursement from the stabilization fund.
However, they had no plan to just basically, you pull up to the school, you don't know where anything is.
Yeah. So I mean, this guy, I think
I just don't understand. Just don't understand.
So I think, Mr. Kennedy, what I would suggest from coming to the capital recommendation, if you're referring to signage, if we could have a specific enumerated request, we want signs here, we want this many electronic signs, this many static signs, we want them to look like this, and we think it's going to cost X. That is a.
Now, who's gonna do that work?
I think that would come from the administration. What signs are needed in the schools? Where should they be located? Where would they be most effective? So that would be involved with the director of finance and operations and superintendent's world.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
Would they
Mr.
be more amenable if we did that exercise and held off on giving them the stabilization request, or is this like a done deal?
I don't know that it's a done deal, but I do know that we're kind of at the end of the road for our request to be printed in time for the warrant.
Oh, what's that date?
I don't know the date, but I do know from Chris Senior, this is pretty much the end of the ability for them to get something into the warrant. We've delayed our vote as much as we can for regular meetings. But there are avenues to do so. For example, we just had an issue with the sewer where we needed to get some funds to do a repair of the sewer. We were able to use I forgot what it's called, the transfer from the emergency town stabilization fund in order for us to get $30,000 to fix the sewer. So there are vehicles between meetings you can utilize to get in. I don't know how much. I have no idea. This is part of the problem at the meeting. I don't know what the number is that we need for signage, but if we came up with a number that's $30,000 or $40,000 or $15,000, whatever it is, we can take that to capital intercycle and figure out how we can get it funded, or we can do it in the fall at special town meeting if we so need to. So, or there are ways that we can plug it through our normal budget cycle. And actually, Mr. Earls is here. We'll be talking in a few moments about coordination of town resources and school resources with respect to ongoing maintenance. That was an issue that came up last time. There are potentially line items in the town budget that can be used for things like this. So there's a lot to explore about how to finance these things that I don't know we have the time to do for the purposes of the stabilization fund. Does that make sense?
I just want to go on record is this town just denies and delays. Deny and delay. No, it doesn't need that. Why don't you go out and, first of all, why don't you hire a facilities director and get someone in here that knows what they're doing, like to tell you what exactly it is. We don't want to do that. It's just deny and delay. I've been here 6 years. I haven't seen anything really done as far as the facilities goes, other than what we did here in the school. I've seen $750,000 go to a plan for a town hall that we never wanted. I mean, so it is so frustrating to pull up and go through that line of cars and see that the sidewalks are all broken. There's no direction upstairs as far as the crosswalks go. They're not even painted. I mean, do they need a detailed list of all the stuff that we needed? And then the question came up, oh, this should be budgeted. We have a budget. And then the town came back and said, oh yeah, there is no budget. So it's just appalling to me that I understand being really this town, let's call it what it is, grateful. It's one of the lowest property taxes besides Braintree and the South Shore. People don't know that. They say, oh, we got high property taxes. Well, that's because you got a $5 million house. That's not my fault. These are the lowest property taxes because we deny and delay. And that's fine. You're going to get what you get. But when it comes to safety items, this is what, if anything happens, they are responsible for it because they said no to lighting and safety items. That's what I want to be on record to go on. This town said no. And I'm not going to vote for anything that doesn't include safety items because that's exactly what this is. It's not a lot of money. It's $250,000. It will clean this place up. It'll keep the paths at least safe. If you're not going to fix the sidewalks, you got to make those sidewalks safe. I would ask any of these members to go into the line, the pickup line at this school and just do me a favor. Just go through it. And if a middle school doesn't jump in front of your car, you'll see that every day. There's no student parking lot. There's no sign that says student parking lot. Where's the auditorium? I don't know. Where's this? Where's that? It's just unbelievable to me. It's such short money. Again, this is dollar down, penny smart.
So, Mr.
That's
King,
what this town is.
I do want
Penny
to,
smart, dollar down.
I do want to,
Spend $750,000 for plans that will never do it, and then blow that $750,000, and then come back to us as a school district and say, we don't know what we're doing, please.
so, Mr. King, I do want to say
It's a philosophy. It's not the people. The people are good people. It's just this dumb, dollar dumb, penny smart.
So
Whatever you want to wrap it up.
I do just want to say from the perspective of the capital committee as expressed to me, that no one opposes investments in school safety or even the signage. Signage was specific. The issue was they do not have, and we have not presented to them a plan on what signs we want to acquire, what safety items we need to fix, what the dollar amount is, what the investments we want to make. And they cannot approve $250,000 to spend on safety. There's no, that, in fact, Mr. Host expressed that was probably against town bylaws in order to have such a vague.
So
request.
we can, so the other
So
ones.
the ask was for us to come back with specificity.
Okay, so the retile in all the classrooms, do we have 3 bids, 4 bids for that? Do we have bids for that? Do we have bids for the fire alarms? Did we, but that engineering study, we just cut the check?
Whether we have, Mr. King,
No, but you just said that they said
Mr.
to
King,
us,
these are discrete projects.
this is the same thing.
No, it's not.
What's the difference? The difference,
Safety versus retiling Deer Hill. I think
where's the 3
So-
bids?
There's just less specificity in just general like category as opposed to an actual task or an actual project. So if you say like safety buildings, lighting, health, infrastructure, considerations and signage, it's not like, it doesn't say lighting in the learning commons and signage around the auditorium.
I'm sure we can get that.
It says, well, but we didn't, that's the problem. We didn't get it in time because we didn't think about this until later on down the road. So I think Mr. Dial is saying there's merit to this. It's just that we have to fully bake it before we present it. I also don't know that it depends what the projects end up being, but I don't know that it's also appropriate for the stabilization fund because that fund, Mr. Kearney, is designed as a fiscally responsible financial planning tool for mid-range projects. So I mean, I share your, as you know, I share your zeal for this stuff. It's just that I understand, and I'm talking out of turn, but I'm just trying to help out. And I'm wholly disinterested in what the position of the capital budget committee is on what our requests are. I have that resonates in no way with me. But what I will say is what the select board says definitely has an impact on how I think, because if without their vote, none of this gets onto the warrant, so it goes nowhere. So if they're against it, there's something to reconsider.
So what, so we can still vote for it, but they can take it out. So if they don't want to, I would say as responsible adults, the 5 of us need to put this on. And if they want to take it off, let them do it. and let the townspeople know that the school committee did what they could to make sure that this school is safe, and they didn't provide us. Now, it's not my job. Is it Paul Kearney's job to go out there and get these bids? Is it Sue she's finance director, and by the way, there used to be just a finance director. We added the facilities director. We put that on a second position. So she's got two hats that used to be one. And now what they're saying is, we're not gonna give you the resources to fix anything because we're not gonna let you find out any pricing. That's just ludicrous. So the $250,000 should be to hire somebody to go out and bid these jobs out and get this work done. And if they want to come back and say they don't approve it, let them approve it. But this is our job is to make sure that these kids are safe. These schools, we need at least $250,000 to make our kids safe.
Mr. King, can I just comment on something that you're saying?
It's just-
Let me just comment.
What is that?
I agree with you, and I actually think that the fire alarm engineering study goes to safety. And I think that if we vote, and everyone should vote however they want. My perspective is if you vote for this with the vague safety category in it, we've been told in no uncertain terms, from my understanding of what the chair reports, that the select board will not support it. Then all three of those things don't go to town meeting, meaning they don't get considered, they don't get funded. So now we have deprived our district of the fire alarm study and the retiling of the classrooms, right? Because we wanted to sort of make the statement about the safety of the building, which is important, but we could fully bake it and then present it in the following year so it can get done.
Or in the fall.
Or in the fall of the special town meeting.
I'm just saying this. What we're saying is, if it's $250,000, it's not a lot of money to make sure that our buildings are safe. Okay, it's lighting. There's no lighting in the back of the back of the school. There is no lighting back there. Okay, there's stairs this is a lawsuit waiting to happen.
So, Mr.
So what I'm trying to say is, if we vote for the safeties of the building, and they come back and say no to it, that's on them. If they don't want to put it on the warrant, that's fine. But I think, and I'm begging this committee not to take that off. I'm
Okay.
begging you not to take that off.
Mr. Kearney, thank
If
you.
you have any integrity towards me or what I'm saying, or if I've been on this committee for 6 years, and you want to say, Mr. Kearney, you don't know what you're talking about, we don't care about the safety of the buildings because we're not going to get it approved, that's fine. Then I'll live with it. But I'm not going to vote for something that doesn't have the safeties of our children in these buildings and simply, if they want to come back and say that they voted against putting it on the warrant for $250,000 after we all went out and got all these folks to approve the 1.5. If any of them found out right now, this room was packed with parents, okay? And they found out this BS that we're talking about, they would be screaming.
Okay.
And we're
Mr.
lucky
Kearney,
there's
Mr.
only,
Kearney,
we're lucky there's only 5
We're no longer
people.
adding any substance here. What I do want to do is open the floor to other committee members who, if there are any views that have not yet been shared.
Are we certain
Mr.
that if we don't remove that our request for stabilization funding on the other two matters would not be added?
I'm not certain of the logistics. What I am certain of or what I've been told, was that the $250,000 line item received zero support of the select board. Now, I don't know if that means that they can line item remove that and approve the other two. I don't know what the implications are.
So I haven't been on the select board in a couple of years, but we used to be able to go through the budget regardless of where the request came in order to balance the budget. We had the ability to take stuff.
Yep.
I don't know if that's true today or not.
Yeah, and I don't know.
I would-
the
I
process.
guess my thinking is,
I apologize if I mischaracterized it.
Yeah.
My understanding was, I was listening to the report of the chair. I thought that it meant that it was like an all or nothing proposition.
yeah,
But if they can line item, that may be
I would love to check, that. And if it is, if the answer is we get nothing because we have that on, I have a different opinion on that. Starting tomorrow, I think we should have an exercise on a fall town meeting item that should go on the agenda, and we should come up with an articulated plan on how much stuff is, even if we're not sure the numbers are right, what the priorities are, and we go after 250 at the special town meeting with whatever format we need to with those guys. And then when we come up to other agenda items, I have a suggestion that we think about and exercise regularly about creating a maintenance line item in our budget going forward.
We will like very much our next, our, when
Yeah.
Mr. Earls
When
comes.
we get to that, I'm going to talk about.
Uh,
So if there's enough time to just ask the question,
So.
we don't have another meeting, do we?
Not until the 24th. So, yeah, I don't, my understanding is, and so, and
Tonight.
ourselves, that the votes need to happen tonight. Now, I suppose what we could do is we could vote, and if we find out that that we have room or whatever, we can always revise the recommendation, but that probably does not get reflected in the warrant as printed.
What, did they cancel our meeting between them and us?
We postponed it.
They postponed it. What is
I'm sorry,
that?
which meeting?
We meet with the select board. There should be, right here, there should be the select board having this conversation. I don't understand why we didn't have a select board person in a meeting with the select board. Every year we have a school meets with the select board.
We did it for, typically, we didn't do it for budget.
Why haven't we done that?
In my memory, since being on the committee, we've not done a joint select board meeting on budget. We did do a joint select board meeting on, there was a safety measure, that we had a joint meeting in town hall with them. But I think that's.
Was it the Osgood
I
Festival?
think that's the disconnect, because you know what, to be honest with you, I'd like to hear from, like, if I have to personally go in front of them, I mean, that's crazy. I mean, I thought it was the law. I mean, I've been on this committee for 6 years, and every year we met with the select board in the school committee. And then I got one that was postponed. So what happened? Why did it get postponed? And why are we having this conversation?
That meeting was about policies on use of the stabilization fund. It was not about actual.
Okay, so they canceled it.
They did. But it was not about line item requests.
Yeah, but again, every year, I'd like to hear from the select. I think that we should delay the vote until we can hear from the select board and invite her in. And let me hear it from her mouth saying that she's not gonna fund a safety building, because I didn't hear any of that. So I want people on record to say that they were in a meeting and they didn't support it. That's it. I don't want to hear her say, that's not what our kids put me here for. I'm fighting for our kids right now.
Okay, so Mr. Kennedy, we're all fighting for our kids.
I know that,
So
but they're
let's
not,
not-
obviously, they didn't show up to the
And
meeting. They
the-
canceled it.
Okay, that meeting was not about this.
Well, they need to have a meeting.
But let's stay on task.
Okay.
We have a task in front of us, which is, I guess we could not approve a request for the stabilization fund. That's one option. The other option is, and maybe we'll just see what the support is. We could ask someone could make a resolution for all three items, and see where that is. And then if that passes, then we have our recommendation. And then if not, we could do a resolution for the request without the safety of buildings item.
May I ask a question before we do?
Yes, absolutely.
Was the school facilities committee involved in the generation of the stabilization requests?
Yes. Of the stabilization requests?
Yes, of these three, or these, or
Well,
2/3, one's controversial. Did
They-
we get their input? Because I get the chair of that committee,
We actually
shaking his
have-
head no.
Mr. Owen,
no.
Can you come to the?
The question is, were they involved in the stabilization fund discussion? Absolutely. They were involved in all of our stabilization items that we prioritized. Were they involved with this sort of broad category of safety?
No.
Is
Were
that
they
what you're
involved,
asking?
the three that we generated here, the three requests, like this final,
The answer from my committee is no.
okay.
We have not been involved in the selection.
Oh, I'm
Of
sorry.
these items or any expenditure out of this fund.
My fault. I thought you said
Very good
facilities
question.
committee.
Oh, the subcommittee.
No. I heard facilities and I forgot about Mr.
You're thinking
Earl's.
about the subcommittee.
No, I was thinking about Nick and
Oh,
and our facilities. I
The department,
apologize.
the facilities department.
Yeah, I completely missed that one. That was a big swing
Okay.
and a miss, Jason, sorry.
All right. Okay, so that answers my question. Thank you.
Again, let me just be definitive, the safety of buildings was created in our subcommittee. Something.
Yes.
No, I understood that. I was just wondering if the school facilities committee was ever consulted about the stabilization.
Probably not, it happened.
The answer is.
A week ago or 10 days ago. Sorry about that.
May I ask another question?
Yes.
Is it possible to have two resolutions with them dependent upon the information from the select board about how in fact they will treat, whether or not they're treated as a lump 3-item list or whether or not they're going to edit to their druthers?
I don't,
So like a resolution
suppose-
might be,
technically.
Who controls the stabilization fund for the schools?
I guess what's the dependency you're trying to capture?
The town.
that I feel like right now at risk is if all 3 items go forward, that we could get nothing. We would have the entire slate could be lost versus which I think could play into how someone strategizes about it. Or to know that, well, we may put something forward and something may be cut out, but we wouldn't lose the entire slate. So that's the contingency I'm trying to sort of work around, and whether or not there's a way of wording a resolution as such that's dependent upon.
You're creating a contingency plan.
Yeah.
The reason I'm
Yes,
struggling with
thank
that is because when you start to parse that through, it becomes, we recommend these 3 items unless you wouldn't like one of them, in which case we don't. And so then it's not really a recommendation.
I look at it maybe differently. In case they don't, we have already taken action at our level to make sure we've done what we need to do and have it to be included.
Just.
It's not that we don't.
Well, I suppose we could do 2 resolutions, one for the less controversial 2 items, and then another resolution
With the
for the third. I don't know how that would be digested into the warrant, but that sounds like a Chris Senior problem.
Yes. And an ability for us to talk on the floor of town meeting about.
Yeah, Mr. Earls?
Yeah, just, sorry to barge in.
No,
Um,
you are not barging in, you're welcome.
My suggestion is, because I agree a little bit with Mr. Kearney on people going on record on denying or approving, my suggestion would be 3 separate warrant articles. First one, fire alarm, 175 out of the stabilization. Warrant number 2, safety buildings, 250 out of the stabilization. Warrant 3, tile, 300,000. And then everyone goes on record saying, I voted for this one, I didn't vote for this one, I voted for that one. I think that's the way.
I think that might be.
What happens when you
That's a
involve
great-
the school
That
facilities
is
committee?
a great idea.
Um,
Can you
So,
come every week? That would be awesome.
If I'm on the agenda and I don't have a board game to go to, I will most certainly be here.
so
That's a great
that
idea.
seems like a great idea. So why don't we have 3 lists on our thing, or 3 requests. We'll take them in turn. Do I have a resolution to include or recommend the request of $175,000 for a fire alarm engineering study from the school stabilization fund?
So
So moved by Ms. McCollum. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Leskey. We'll do roll call votes on these. Mr. Cuny?
Aye.
Mr. Carr?
Aye.
Ms. Leskey?
Aye.
Mr. McCollum?
Aye.
Mr. Dial? Aye. So the fire alarm request for the stabilization fund has passed unanimously. We'll go to the next one. Do I have a resolution to request the withdrawal of $250,000 for a safety of buildings, lighting, health and infrastructure considerations and signage for the middle school and high school?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Carr. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Mr. Kearney. I will do roll call vote. Mr. Kearney,
Aye.
Mr. Carr,
Aye.
Ms. Leskey,
Aye.
Ms. McCollum,
nay.
Mr. Dial, nay. So that passes by a vote of 3-2. Do I have a motion to approve the request of $300,000 from the school stabilization fund to finish retiling all classrooms at Deer Hill? So moved by Mr. Carr. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cullen. Again, roll call vote. Mr. Kearney.
Aye.
Mr. Carr.
Aye.
Ms. Leskey.
Aye.
Mr. Cullen.
Aye.
Mr. Dial. Aye. That motion carries 5-0. Okay, so those are our three recommendations. I guess, Ms. Owen, if you could communicate those, the capital budget and the stabilization requests to the appropriate people of town, and have those submitted in accordingly.
Thank you.
Great.
Now, may I ask a question about this overall process, the stabilization fund, Mr. Dow?
Yes.
So we have 1.5 in there. We're asking that 725 be allocated. Why aren't we using more?
So this is a great thing. What I'd actually like to do is move to the next agenda item. Since I'm presenting, I'd like to turn the chairmanship over to you. So you'll serve as chair for this portion of the meeting, if you would so accept. Okay.
Good job. So on the school stabilization fund, I wanted to talk to the committee a little bit about what we have going for us and what we talked about at the Capital Group.
Might need it.
If you'll see in your materials, agenda item F3, there's a spreadsheet. And Ms. Owen, can you put that on the screen as well? This is an indicative 10-year plan. I've put this together, and it's based on the 10-year plan that's been included in our budgeting framework that we've used for the past several meetings. It includes items from the AI3 report and shows anticipated expenses on a time frame. It goes by fiscal year 2024 through 2035. And it assumes a contribution of $1.5 million to the stabilization fund every year, starting with, as we see here, a stabilization fund balance of $1.5 million. I've randomly picked these projects, not randomly. I've picked them unilaterally. It does not reflect anything that has been given any input other than it's on the list. And this is why I invited Mr. Earls here, because I think this is where we can use some heightened coordination with our facilities committee in helping develop something like this going forward. But I wanted to use this as a discussion point to talk to the committee and get the committee's buy-in to do that. So as you can see here, if we start with a fiscal year 2024 stabilization fund balance of 1.5 million, we can fund approximately $17.5 million of projects over the next 10 years. That includes replacement of the fire alarm, retiling of Deer Hill, Joseph Osgood roof, Joseph Osgood and Deer Hill repaving, the Deer Hill roof, Cohasset Middle High School repaving, and the Cohasset Middle High School roof. These are all based on cost estimates that have been provided prior, so they're probably low versus what we need, but we can accomplish that with staggered spending. Now, I did not include in my estimation here the $250,000, so that actually, if you'll scooch ahead to fiscal year 2030, we actually, if we lose that $250,000, we go into debt by about $225,000, so we would have to reorient some of these projects. But you can see as we go through, next year we would do the study and the retiling, the following year we do the fire alarm replacement. Then we have enough money for a roof replacement at Joseph Osgood. Then we repave in 2028. And I don't need to read these to the committee, but you can see how by staggering these projects, we can get a lot accomplished. And that I use as an illustration of the type of planning that we need to do for the stabilization fund to ensure that we're able to accomplish all the things that we do. Before I cede the floor back, I will just note that this does not include a ton of projects that we know are going to need to be done. For example, air conditioning in the Joseph Osgood or Deer Hill, boiler replacements in both Joseph Osgood, Deer Hill, and in the Middle High. A new generator for Joseph Osgood, the air handler projects for both Deer Hill and Cohasset Middle High School. So that's another, right there, you can see that's another $1 million. And if you go through the 3 report, there are a number of things I've left off here that go well into the 7, maybe even 8 digits, including replacement of windows over time and the like. So it is tempting to look at this $1.5 million annuity, if you will, as a way to finance a lot of different projects. But as I mentioned in advocating this for the town, this money is already spent. And I think with the appropriate plan, as Mr. McClellan described it, as a planning tool, we are able to accomplish the things that we need without our kids being rained on. So that's that was what I wanted to go over. And Mr. Chair,
It's my first official act. I will return chairmanship to you. So,
Any comments, questions for the committee, thoughts?
This is excellent.
okay, here's my questions and comments. This was done by you. Appreciate the effort. I think it's illustrative of the kind of planning we need to do, but this is just the perspective of one person.
It's not meant to be a plan.
I know that. I'm just making it clear because some people may feel that it was meant to be a plan. So this is why I feel strongly, and I've said this a couple times, that the school facilities committee should sort of almost serve as like, I don't know, like almost like a first line of defense, and in collaboration with our subcommittee. I know there's some duplication there, but there's a whole team of people that are dedicated to reviewing the report that was generated by AI3, trying to prioritize the goals, and simultaneously working on the new potential for new and feasibility study that we haven't even been able to get any headway on because the town hall controversy is taking up all the bandwidth of town hall, but and town employees. So I just think that like in other words, I think this would have been much more compelling to me, and it's not, you're not trying to be compelling, you're just trying to use it as a demonstrative tool, Mr. Chair, I appreciate it because it's great that people need to think about it this way. I would love for the school facilities committee to develop something like this, so we can get their perspective.
This is great segue comments. This is exactly what I wanted to bring Mr. Earls into the conversation.
Well, that's my position.
Thank you for that.
Can I jump in? I would like.
Actually, do you mind if I just close off this?
Oh, yeah.
Actually give you the floor and once we move to the next zero. Any other comments, questions for the committee on this before we move into kind of a overarching discussion about how we can utilize and work better with our facilities committee?
Yeah, it's good just to note that the school, we do have a 10-year capital plan, which of course is cited. I think it's great. I like that. I like all these ideas, but I just wanted to make sure the public knew that.
Just one note on that. So if they put these 3 items on the warrant, it will take 2/3 of the population of the meeting to pass them. So
yep,
it's not a majority.
Super majority.
Super majority.
So great. So we'll close that off. And I do want to, I've already welcomed Mr. Earls to the meeting. I do want to welcome to the meeting. I want to start, obviously, but there's a couple things that we want to talk about how we can work together, but I want to give you the floor generically.
Sure, there seems to be a lot of miscommunication and people just going off doing their own things and not informing my committee, and our committee has voiced numerous times, and we're getting very frustrated. So I'm glad that you put me on tonight's agenda. I don't want to be adversarial, but we feel, what's our purpose? Other than to get you guys the money, and now we're getting kind of kicked off to the side is how we feel. So what I would like to today is relay to you guys is think of us as your facility department for the schools. We will get you what you need. We will go and I will hammer the crap out of the town hall to get us numbers and bids on stuff. I can be very annoying when I want to be. Okay, so we need to work together. We have to be on the same page. Not saying what you guys put forward carries some sort of weight, but I know in certain circles in this town, if it comes out of my committee, it holds a little more than coming out of this committee. Okay, that's just what I've been told and what I've heard. Because some in this town view, which I think is wrong, is just trying to get a new school. They're always just trying to get things to new this, new that, new this. And that's not what it's about. And I think the temperature in this town needs to drop a little bit. And if a group that is lesser known, because honestly, people still don't even know we freaking exist as a committee, which is fine. I don't care. But if we can come to the front for you guys and do all the background, If I was included on the three that you picked, I probably would have already had where the signs are going. I would have said where all the sidewalks need thing. I could have had, our committee has people that are willing to work and take these things on because it hasn't been done. And I get Mr. Kearney's frustration because I'm frustrated as well. Going on what, 3 years of this committee? And what have we accomplished? Got a survey done? You know, great, awesome. We got $1.5 million and nobody can figure out who the hell's running the show. Pardon my language, because I'm a little aggravated right now. So I want to work with you guys. I want to do long-term capital planning. I know you guys have a 10-year plan. I don't necessarily agree with some of the items on there. I know there's other things that could come off because if we do certain things, like if we get the roof done at Osgood, solar can go on it. You won't need to spend for a generator because solar will take care of any, battery backups that can power a whole entire thing. So you wouldn't have to spend on a generator. Like, these are discussions that I've had with the alternative committee already. I just need you guys to, I guess, support us because we feel like we don't have any support.
So thank you, Mr. That actually, you said it better than I could. That was my goal in having this discussion for is it became clear to me as we were working through this budget process that we need people who help us focus on. And this is, as Mr. Conlon, this is indicative, but we need some map that helps us. We know we have, and just in my list here, it's $70.5 million. The AI3 report goes to about $60 million.
60.
But we need some map to help us responsibly allocate these things. And in my estimation, your committee is in an ideal spot to help us with that. And so I was going to raise that to this committee, and if there's agreement, ask your help in helping us map out how we can meet these needs. So it seems like we're largely on the same page. I know it's been fits and starts as we were moving from advocacy for the fund to now, and some of the things that you're seeing now are holdover things like the Deer Hill tiling is something that we, had was a holdover from some prior requests. So I'll confess that we could have done a better job of incorporating you into those discussions. So I'll apologize for that for myself. But I do want to open up to the committee to see if there are thoughts on the use of our school facilities committee for long-term capital planning when it comes to specifically the stabilization fund, but for other long-term capital needs as well.
I also apologize. So I have a question on governance. Like, we definitely have a problem. We want to work with these guys, so let's fix it tonight. Like, let's just figure out how to do that. So like, if it's, I don't even know if we can do this, but if we can add members to every subcommittee that we have, can we put these guys on subcommittee meetings with us?
I don't think we need to. They are a committee that's, we appoint 2 members, the Troika appoints 2 members, and then the select board appoints 2 members.
Okay.
So there's representation there. I think one of the things we could do better is to have more frequent updates from Mr. Earls and the committee. So that's one thing that I'll commit to for the balance of my tenure here.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I wanted to make sure that we do is get a kind of a rules of the road, how we can work together.
Yeah.
And
Look, I would love to just send to Jason and every subcommittee that we have, he gets copied on it, and we would love their participation.
It says not less than once a month.
No.
That's
Not less than, oh, we can have,
that update, communications, not less. It says the SFC will provide updates to the CSC and the Board of Selectmen as requested, but not less than once a month.
but I love the idea of these guys getting in the weeds with us. I mean, I've said this a bunch of times. You don't have to look far in Cohasset to find somebody that's really good at something, okay? I know what he does for a living. He's really good at this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, we should just tap into this, and like, I think the more we can engage with that committee and invite them to just get on board with us, because sometimes we just sit around and we scratch our heads, geez, we got a problem, we got to fix it. And sometimes it's timing, like we were up against the wall on this stuff, subcommittee stuff. So we were just cooking this stuff up, trying to move it across the goal line. We weren't looking to sidestep any of the process, but I would love to have these guys more involved at every level.
The budget resources subcommittee certainly invite
Yeah.
representatives from the facilities committee. for those meetings.
It's important because from a school perspective, that, the moving through the capital process is arduous.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's bad, it just is. And there's a lot of opinions that come back and there's a lot of, throughout the years, there's a lot of information they request from us that become very specific. And it does become rather wearing.
I think, yeah.
And it's nice to have the support.
Right. I just gotta say, the frustration part is when you do the work and everybody says, no, they did nothing, right? I mean, we walked these schools, right? We found out what they need, okay? And then you got people that don't even show up for the walkthroughs as the select board, not the select board, but the people that work for the town, never even showed up. And when we give them a list, and then they say, no, I don't know what you're talking about. So what I suggest that we do is let's go back to where we're all at this point. Our schools need funding and they're not getting funded, right? People have said, oh, we're gonna get a new school, right? Have we done a survey?
No, Mr. Kenny, I don't want to,
Let me just,
this is literally just how, we're focusing on how we will work with the facilities committee. We're not focusing on any other grievances.
okay, so the way to work with them is to give them an idea of what we need, okay?
And we don't need to do that at this meeting. This is and we should, and I'll say, Mr. Kenny, you are on the Budget Resources Subcommittee. You're in a great place to have a meeting that's more granular and invite School Facilities Committee to come talk to that meeting. We're running late on this meeting, so I don't want to rehash other issues. I know we have at least one other committee member wants to speak. So, but do you have any other thoughts on working with the School Facilities Committee, or any concerns on employing them for a long-term financial planning resource?
I thought we already have all that. Yeah, I would say get CC'd. Love to have you in our meetings, because like, to your point, I think that if we work with the committee, that we would do the signage, like, that would be, we have 7, 8 dedicated people that are here to fix it with no direction from us. And that is awful, because I believe that people think in this committee that we're gonna get a new school and this school doesn't matter. That's it.
Thank you, Mr.
I said it.
I give the floor to Mr. McCall.
I just propose, and I don't know if anyone's willing to do this tonight, but I think we could and we should if possible. If not, we can do it at the next meeting. I think we need to revise the charge of the School Facilities Committee. When I drafted that, it was, I formed the committee based on the bylaws that called for that committee to be constituted in contemplating a new school building. This was several years ago now. And as Mr. Earls will attest, it took even a while to even get the committee constituted. But so it really charge kind of focuses on new building projects. I think we need to specifically incorporate repair or maintenance in there.
Yeah.
So I have proposed language. It's a simple change. It's not that complex, but the charge, I don't know if you're willing to look at this right now,
Yeah,
or we need
if
to
you
do
think
it.
we can digest it as a committee right now, that'd be great. It's all good. If not, I mean, I don't think there's still harm in delaying to another meeting, but happy to entertain.
I guess I'll just take whatever everyone thinks. I mean, it's not overly complex, but I don't want to, okay. So the current charge reads, the School Facilities Committee will serve at the direction of the Cohasset School Committee and work with the Superintendent of Schools, Town Manager, and other town personnel committees and consultants to advance the goals of the Cohasset School Committee relative to the addition, renovation, and/or construction of new school facilities in the district. I propose amending that clause to advance the goals of the Cohasset School Committee relative to the renovation and/or repair of existing school facilities, as well as the construction of any additions or entirely new school buildings.
Can I pause on that, because I like this idea, but we might get more refined as we move into the next bullet.
Sure. It's just a proposal.
No, I think there's something there. Maybe we can't do that at this meeting. Before we move on to beyond, because there's 2 bullets here for School Facilities Committee as official tasks. I would like to open up another one for consideration of the committee, and that's routine maintenance. So
One comment.
yes, Ms. Leskey.
One, I second Mr. McClellan's idea around making sure that the charge is really specific. Having also sat on the School Facilities Committee,
Right.
I think really clarifying what the role of the committee is, and then Mr. Earls, for you to define for us, it sounded like what I was hearing was tell us what to do, and sort of creating a very clear channel, like we will report back to you on these items that need to be researched or acted upon, if that is in fact the desire of the committee and in line with the charge of the committee. Does that make
Yes.
sense? Okay.
Just need a roadmap.
We need a roadmap from you, so.
Yeah.
Just one last thing, I think this is a great idea. I would love to have a longer discussion with this, which would include Jason and his colleagues about let's get this right. I think mending it, but maybe we might think we can do this on another agenda item, just so we can have a longer
Okay, it's a good idea.
discussion.
And maybe Jason, you can talk to
Come
your
through,
Mr. Earls, you can talk to
we
your
all go
committee.
think about it, we come back, we have an agenda item, and we get this right.
That's a good idea. Maybe then Mr.
Yeah.
Earls talks to his committee about that.
Exactly.
That's not a bad idea.
Lovely.
When is your next
What do you
meeting? Because I think
24th.
we could do a joint because we switched ours to Wednesdays because of sporting conflicts from some of the members of mine. So we can definitely do. a
Misery has
joint
something.
committee.
So if we're gonna amend the charge, I don't know if we do that in a joint meeting though. So, we can work through logistics. I do want to move to the second facilities committee potential engagement, and that's, as we learned in our discussion and from Mr. Kennedy's zealous advocacy, that we don't have a school-focused line item budget on maintenance. I have come to learn that that's not entirely the case, that there is a town line item for school maintenance to the tune of $270,000. So there are resources there that we can tap to help do some of the, I'll just, for lack of a better word, safety of buildings, lighting, health, and infrastructure considerations, painting stairs, pressure washing the sides of the buildings, replacing fences, doing all of these things that we've been talking about over the past few weeks. There is a town line item. Now, I don't know right now where that's being allocated, if it's being allocated, but one of the things that it seems to me that the facilities committee is uniquely positioned, given their constitution being appointed both by the school committee and by the select board and by the troika, is to help us oversee the coordination between the town budgeting process and our budget insofar as it turns on maintenance items, and specifically that town earmarked maintenance item. So I guess that's the theory, and as Mr. Earls, your thoughts, concerns are.
That's wonderful that that's there. I'm just puzzled why it's there and not here.
It's a good historical question.
Because we have no control over it. I mean,
So then it's
Exactly
not
what I'm
really,
saying.
so to me, what that sounds like from my personal experience is a facilities fund. If they have to come out here and fix something,
Facilities does
they have a bucket that they can charge to. That's what that tells me.
So
That's
there's,
exactly right.
yeah, I think it's something to that. There was, and I don't know the full history of this, but there was some issue 15 years ago with the school budget that they blew up how the school budget works. And this is why we have this now, this capital request thing. And anyway, I think this is a vestige of that, but we have centralized maintenance through the town, and so the town has the budget. So working us through that request process to make sure that those resources are being appropriately deployed for our schools, that we have an eye on and input in it, I think would be a place where we could really use help.
Yes, and I'm surprised you don't receive a monthly report on what the town has done.
No, it's very detached.
Fix that.
So,
And it does come, sometimes facilities and leadership here we don't, like the generator Osgood, we don't agree. Like, we've been asking for the generator Osgood for a while, and the facilities director doesn't really feel that we need it because we've got portables that can plug in. And then we had
And they're
this
doing good work, and they are
They are doing
painting
good
and
work.
doing things, but we're not really in control of it.
Right,
Nor is it necessarily reflective of our priorities.
and I think
Right.
that's the part where I think
Usually
this
is,
committee
but
could
not
use the
Right.
facilities committee's help. And so that gets to my next point about the amended charge. I do think that in the proposal language you had, I think we need to add something clearer about the maintenance of existing facilities as well. Maybe that was in there, but it's,
I said repair.
but maintenance and repair, I think would be, because, the things that Mr. Kearney points out that we
Just
need
throw
to do.
a comma in there.
Yeah, that would be about, say, pressure washing or painting stairwell handles and the like. I mean, many of the pictures he pointed out in his presentation, I think could be addressed through an appropriate responsible use of more coordination between the town and the schools on those sorts of things.
How do those requests happen right now? do you guys deem that, hey, I think we need to clean this, I think maybe this needs painting, do you guys request that as part of the capital, or do you just go to
So
maintenance and
this
say,
is,
hey, this needs to be painted over here?
this is the gap that we, yeah, this is the gap that I think we.
You know, I've talked to them a million
surfaced.
times.
I think this is the gap that we surfaced last time. The mandate of this committee is budget. So we approve budget. We don't get into, and Dr. Sullivan is quick to remind me, we don't get into the operational aspects of the school, except we do. But those things about, you know, which walls are going to be pressure washed, what walls are going to be painted, those aren't decisions that come to our committee. Those are decisions that are done to the administration. But we still need to figure out how to budget for that. And right now, the budget that we're approving doesn't include for the schools a line item. And maybe that should be shifted over, maybe it shouldn't. These are the discussions I think we can have. We could use help from a committee has constituents, both from the school committee and from the select board.
Do we even know, Sue, how much of that has been used yearly? Yeah. So we have no control over that line item.
It seems like you're in broad agreement, this is a place where the facilities committee can help us out as well.
Yes.
So, okay. Any discussion, comments, questions from other committee members about utilizing our facilities committee for helping us ensure that we get appropriate budgeting from the town? Mr. McCall.
I'll just share the language with you and you can take that to the committee and see if you guys want to change it, add to it, whatever. It's fine.
So when do you meet with your committee?
Next, April 24th, that's 7.
So we got a recommendation. So what I'm hearing is the select board saying no to cleaning the building. Can you bring that up in your committee and see what your committee thinks about signage and safety? And see if you guys recommend it? Because I would like to know if your committee recommends what I'm
I can ask them, yes. I
talking.
can ask them on all 3 items as well.
Okay, could you CC me and the committee on that, please?
Thank you.
Okay. Any other, Mr. Earls, anything from you on the facilities committee?
No, glad I got this off my chest.
We very much appreciate you coming in. Again, we've kind of come through quite a bit of a change in our school. We have, you know, again, this new stabilization fund. We have identified a lot of needs, and look forward to working with you on how we
One
can.
other
So-
question.
Yes.
Do we know the date? Because I couldn't find it on the submission and maybe I missed it on whether we get an answer, yay, nay, on the accelerated repair.
Same, around the same timeline, isn't it?
No.
November, December.
We found out in December but we've never applied for accelerated repair since I've been here.
Yeah, because that one we had to have in first, and it was
Yeah.
a shorter duration because.
I don't know. I can find out
The
though.
board meets quicker on the accelerated repair from the schedule I saw on their website,
They do.
but I couldn't find for the life of me when the decisions were made.
I was under the impression it was the same, even though there was earlier.
It's
deadline.
not,
It's
it
earlier?
runs
Oh,
different.
okay.
We'll look into that for you.
Yeah. At
Definitely.
least that's what their website says. God knows when that was updated, but
You can find that answer.
Yeah.
yeah. Awesome. That's all I have. Thank you, everyone. Great
You can
time.
find that out from your
Last question,
colleagues,
from committee?
your business colleagues.
Hearing none.
Thank you.
Mr. Earls, thank you very much,
Have a
and
good
we
night.
look forward to seeing more of you.
Thank you very much.
Ball fields.
Yes. So that'll close off our school facility committee goals and objectives. Now we have food service. Any brief updates on food service? This is again a standing agenda item that we use just to remind the community that our schools are more than just education, teaching, and learning, and maintaining buildings, but also a full-service restaurant as well for 1,500 children.
Grace gave a nice update.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also too, the Skipper Lounge is.
The Skipper, that's the only update I have. The Skipper Lounge is open for the seniors now.
Yes.
Security stole your thunder.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my kids just.
We're gonna
keep
split you
bringing it
guys up
and-
over there. I don't
Yeah,
know.
sorry.
No, but Grace, I mean, she hit the nail on the head. I mean, we have heard nothing
Yeah,
but
it's better.
positives about.
That Skipper Lounge is gonna be great. I mean, granted, these seniors only get it for a while, but next year it'll be up and running the whole year.
Still don't know.
Yeah, elementary, well, we are gonna have another meeting for elementary. And I would like to send you some of the recommendations that I saw. So I will send it to you. And I'll send it over to Craig so we can, we'll send it from our committee what we saw. How's that? Is that all right, Craig? All right, cool.
All right, so I'll note here just before we close off budget resources governance, we used to have a bullet point in here, and I think I may have inadvertently deleted on transportation. I'm not going to go into transportation now, but that's another standing item that we usually have in here. Just a reminder, community that we also transport with 300 kids, or maybe 800 kids back and forth. So closing off agenda item budget resources, we'll go to community relations and communication. Reports from school committee, subcommittee, and liaisons. I do know we'll have at least one subcommittee report from the policy subcommittee. If you want to take that one, Ms. Letsky, if you'd like me to. Or meeting earlier today.
Sure. We had a very brief
Brief meeting.
gathering this morning or this afternoon to talk about upcoming changes to policies, particularly those around the way in which security footage either has audio or doesn't. And so we will be reconvening shortly.
Books or challenged materials. So there's a policy
Yes.
on how materials can be challenged, and there's some thinking about updating that because apparently other districts are having more and more community and citizen challenges to what materials these schools use, and some of them have more developed procedural processes. So we're evaluating our own to make sure that that policy makes sense in light of potential developments in that space. So any other school committee, subcommittee liaison reports? All right, I'll close off agenda block H, school committee governance. There are no topics not reasonably anticipated by the chair. I don't believe we have minutes for approval. Future agenda items, I'll just start with, it sounded like we had some consensus on potentially an agenda item on elementary school libraries and their status, just following on the library presentation we had here. And then Dr. Scollins, we discussed incorporating in the teaching and learning block an overview of the testing, standardized testing and the time periods and so on. Any other future agenda items, Mr. Carr?
Could we add an item to begin a discussion about how to fund routine maintenance?
Yes.
And then also, could we, at the time convenient, please invite in this absolutely fabulous and wonderful chef, because I haven't met him. Love to have him come in and.
Why don't you come to a subcommittee meeting?
I think I will.
We'll do it when you're
I was
around.
at the Oscars Hall on cheeseburger day.
We had organic cheeseburgers.
Did ya?
Grass fed. Best program I've had in a long time.
Yeah, but I think it would be good to hear. I mean, let's,
And maybe the routine maintenance item could be one where you do have
Yeah.
our facilities committee come and do it.
Yeah.
The other thing is too, is if we could put an agenda item, why don't we invite the community and just see what I'd like to get I just sent Dr. Sullivan which I think asked like our community, what do they feel like? Do they think our buildings are where they are? Do they think we should get a new school? I just don't, we've heard all these voices, but I'd like to hear if you could have a meeting and hear from the community and ask them what they think. Would they support a new school? How do they rank the schools now?
This is this is going to be somewhat embarrassing for me. But we do have a subcommittee on communications. I'm not sure who's on it. That's the part that's
It
embarrassing.
might be me and you.
I think it might be.
No, I think it's.
Oh, you guys, okay.
So that might be something for.
reporting for duty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
Maybe
send you
suggestion
the
for that
survey.
Okay,
Ted, all right?
great.
To determine whether we do such a thing.
I'll act on whatever the committee wants.
Yeah, I sent you the
Yeah, I just would want the.
So
yeah, come out of the.
I'm not saying that we endorse that as a committee, but
No,
it's something to think
we'll
about
talk about
subcommittee
it.
level. And if it's decided on there, we can talk about it at largely. I'm sensitive to people being over surveyed. So make sure it makes sense. Mr. McCollum.
Just a thought to maybe instead push for that feasibility study for us to have the committee for the selection of the project, the design firm that's going to do that, select the design firm and get that done so that we have that in order to present to people. Because that's why I was advocating for that. Because to date, that discussion has been very amorphous and hypothetical. And so I think if we had more definitive information that feasibility study would yield in terms of what the district might be in need of, what might be practicable for our district, what community-wide resources might be incorporated into any new building, where that building might be, and how much a building may cost, if a building is needed. I think it might be better to wait until we get that done. So it might be better to put our energy into pushing the town to getting that done, because I think they've been really distracted with the town hall issue. So it's just something I'm throwing out there.
No, and I had talked to Michelle Leary, her and I were going to touch base this week if she could find time to get, because the feasibility study draft of the RFP is done. I think you looked at it, you made.
Well, I made a lot of changes. I don't know if they were accepted. I never heard anything about it again, so.
Yeah, they're accepted, they're just waiting. Michelle and I will sit down because it's coming from the town side. The procurement has to be done through her. So I basically have to just sit with her and we have to fill in the dates. And I think that's just, like you said, through the town.
All right.
What's going on with the town hall? It's been delayed, but it's a matter of, it's ready to go. It's just, they've got to get the timeline. Because you're gonna advertise it, you're gonna publish it, you're gonna, there's several steps. You're gonna have the walkthroughs, the bid openings. So it's just a matter of,
Is that right for a future agenda item, Mr. Collins, feasibility study update?
There's no, because there's no update. That's the problem. We
Yeah.
got the money. And now we need to form a committee to select that it has to be composed of a few, like someone from the town.
Wouldn't that be the?
Someone from the school district.
facilities?
We have to have like a committee to interview design firms to come
Couldn't you
in.
use that, Jason?
Facilities.
It's whatever. You can-
No, someone from that committee would be a member of the selection committee. They can't serve as selection committee. There has to be like a town manager representative on there. There has to be probably the facilities. There has to be it's diverse representation to select this design firm. And we
Okay.
gotta get the design firm, so like, then they can go and do the study,
I
like,
hear you.
so right now,
Like they do-
we haven't been able to, all we've done is get the money, nothing's happened.
Well,
I just think with the
that's typically what you do when you have, I mean, if MSBA approved us and you're doing a feasibility study through them, we'd have to create a committee.
Just like we did with the superintendent.
Oh, I know. It's just, I just wondered if you could use them, but I guess you're right.
One of them, yes, I think Mr. Earls.
I hear,
Volunteer.
I was just trying to.
Any other future agenda items?
No.
Okay, with that, we do have a couple reasons to go into executive session. So sorry, everyone, but they will be quick. But I do want to recognize our audience who stuck with us the entire time.
Thank you.
It's the first
And-
thing.
Get used to it.
Yeah, please don't run away and say, I'm not gonna do this.
I'm gonna do it all again tomorrow night.
This was an easy one.
Have a great night.
Great, thank you. So for executive session, we have two reasons to move into executive session. One is for strategy and preparation for negotiation with non-union personnel. And the other is litigation strategy. And so with that, I'll have a request for motion to go into executive session. Motion made by Mr. Carr.
Second.
Motion seconded by Mr. McCollum. It's a roll call vote. Mr. Kearney.
Aye.
Mr. Carr.
Aye.
Ms. Leskey.
Aye.
Mr. McCollum.
Aye.
Mr. Dial. Aye. Okay, we'll move
We'll only
into,
come back into adjourn.
and we will, well, I guess since we didn't do the motion that way, we'll come back in, adjourn again, but we will not go back into video. So we will turn off the video feed for now, but you're not missing anything because we aren't going to come back into open session for anything of substance other than the adjournment motion. So,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Good night, everybody.